Hey everybody, Kevin Harnett, Ryan Hoke with you. I hope everybody's doing well. We have been tracking weather what seems like for hours now across the area, keeping up with some of the damage reports. And now we're into round two. Remember earlier, if you were watching, we said we had two clusters to work with. One would be sinking to the south from parts of central and southern Indiana down toward the Ohio River. And then the next one would move in from the west. Well, we're tracking now the one moving in from the west. Last time you saw us on the stream, if you weren't watching the 11 o'clock news, would have been for the tornado warning that we had coming out, and then what sort of preceded that, the storms moving across Oldham, Henry, and Shelby counties. So here we are watching the SkyTrack, watching the radar. We have another round of storms moving closer to us.
Yeah, and this is kind of the grand finale here for the evening. This is what we expected to happen after midnight, right on cue here. This main line of storms from the west moving in. It will clear our counties by about 4 a.m. A lot of us by about 2 a.m., which is some good news, but you get the idea. We're going to be here for the long haul here for a bit, and if any tornado warning is issued for our counties, we would have to go to our main studio, and you'd see kind of an interruption here, but we would have live continuous coverage on both Wave Television and, of course, here Wave Weather Now, our 24/7 weather live stream that you're watching us on, either on social media or, of course, on our Wave Weather app or website.
Yeah, we keep the alert day until 4 o'clock simply because of this line of storms moving in. Eventually, it will enter into a weakening mode, but for now, we're still seeing some strong storms in parts of central Indiana and even southern Indiana for some. This is going to be a cluster and then a line of storms that moves past. Wind damage is the main issue, but we have the opportunity to see those isolated tornadoes. We've already seen strong winds in parts of the area today. Over 60-mile-per-hour winds measured near Bloomington. This was not far from Seymour. We see some of this damage coming in. That's a bad day there. You get a tree down on the car. Whoosh, not good. Likewise in Seymour, it wasn't just the wind, but also a lot of rain.
Yeah, the flooding there at that major intersection in Seymour. You can see the Rally's restaurant on the right there. People were turning around and not drowning, but we did have a couple of cars at least submerged there underneath the traffic lights. A rough deal. This wasn't too far away from Seymour either. Look at this. I mean, the scale of this, when you compare it to the folks in the foreground there, incredible. Giant, giant tree down in Uniontown, Indiana. So Jackson County really took the brunt of this with the wind and, of course, the flooding. And you can see we still have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect.
You know, they extended that. This now goes until 4 a.m. I do think here in Louisville we'll have the storms past us by 4, but again, that's for the whole area. And then you'll notice the tornado watch over to our west. That's in place until 6 a.m. So they've extended that as well. That arcs back well to the south and west. So it's going to take quite a bit of time to get that, all of that activity through here. Nonetheless, those watches stay in place through that time. In addition to the severe threat with wind and hail and tornadoes, we've also had the risk of flooding, and we've also seen a lot of those warnings extended. Here in Louisville, we've had flood advisories and flash flood warnings, where we even had upgraded, at least at one point, to a considerable tag on that, which means, and the reason behind that was because they had a number of water rescues being performed.
Yeah, the turnaround, don't drown situation there in Louisville. And then, of course, when they do that considerable tag, it makes your phone go nuts. So that's why your phone made that awful noise earlier. Look at some of these rainfall totals. Yikes.
Yeah, it was super impressive. I mean, you get up around Lawrence and Jackson County, especially western Jackson, that red indicative of 4 or 5 inches of rainfall there. Not out of the question to have seen quite a bit of flash flooding happen there. Closer to Louisville, we've had anywhere between 2 to 4 inches of rain in some of our highest rain gauges. Now, currently, we still have the flash flood warning that includes Clark County, Indiana, Jefferson County, Kentucky. That includes the Louisville area. That's in place until 10 minutes after the hour. 8 more minutes on that flash flood warning, and heavier rain poised to move back in to the region.
Yeah, and notice where it hasn't been raining today. Southern Kentucky, you folks are in a drought. You will eventually see some storms this evening, but I don't think you'll see what they've seen in Louisville and, of course, parts of southern Indiana. Notice on the map, that is now a warm front. That boundary that kind of moves south now lifting back northward as a warm front, and that's why there is at least some concern for some strong to severe storms with the activity currently moving through. However, this will not be as high octane as what happened earlier today. day, most likely here. A lot of this line of storms moving in from the west is not warned at all at this point because it doesn't necessitate the need for a warning. The winds and the hail and such not to that level. You see that giant unwarned part in southwest Indiana right there. So that may encompass quite a few of our counties. Does that mean we won't see any warnings at all? Not necessarily. There may be some new warnings that try to pop up along that line. But right now, most of the severe weather is just to our north or well to our southwest near Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a second. I want to point out what this looks like. It moves through fairly fast. So by 2, 3 o'clock, it's out of Louisville. And hopefully by that 4, 5 a.m. time frame, it's out of the whole viewing area. With that, we're left for some sunshine possibly tomorrow afternoon before we get sort of reset for the next round of storms. And that brings our next alert day.
And that alert day for now goes from 8 p.m. to midnight. That's going to be Tuesday evening, a much shorter window and a much faster progression of these storms through our area, thankfully. But isolated tornadoes, damaging winds, hail, all on the docket, mainly for Kentucky this time. If you're in Indiana, you're mostly immune from this, which is some good news for you folks up there. You've been hard hit today. You notice that we do get that gap tomorrow in the rain chance during the afternoon. Then after 8 p.m., kaboom, storms move in. These will be fairly widespread, especially by midnight. But by midnight, the severe weather threat will be over. Just mainly a widespread rain situation super early Wednesday morning.
The greatest threat tomorrow, likewise, the wind, and the best potential for that looks to be off to our south. You can see the futurecast showing our southern counties, mainly along and south of the parkway, sort of pegged for the best potential for the severe weather. Doesn't mean we won't see some showers, maybe thunderstorms here, but the best chance for severe along and south of the parkways. And that's where we're outlooked from the Storm Prediction Center. That's the slight risk area. That includes places like Litchfield, Munfordville, Greensburg, down toward Columbia. The rest of us up toward the Ohio River in the lowest category, and that's the marginal risk. I'm going to quickly run through what we are looking at for the next few days. A lot of folks may be headed out to the track. Again, we get past tomorrow, and then we'll jump back to the radar view. But for tomorrow, no issues at the track if you're headed out for 5-0 Tuesday. This is Wednesday at Churchill Downs. Temperatures in the 60s. The general trend is to cool us down. That would include not only Wednesday for the race day, but during the evening hours, which would mean the Great Steamboat Race. Thurby, highs in the low to mid 60s. That comes with a partly sunny sky. So we've got a mainly dry day today. We'll have a mainly dry day tomorrow. And I'm talking about the time if you were doing some of the Derby Festival events. Now, they did get clipped at the end of the bed races with some of that heavy rain, but a lot of the tailgating went off without a hitch. So that was some good news before the racing moved inside Broadbent Arena. Thurby looks good, partly sunny. We get to the rain chances, and you'll notice we increase rain chances when? On Friday. Why? Cold front moving closer to us. With that, we're going to see at least a 30% rain chance that moves in during the late morning or early afternoon hours on Friday. And that's what we have graphed out here. And we'll be updating this multiple times throughout each day.
Yeah, this is something that we do every year. Long-range rain chances for Thurby, Oaks, and Derby. And thankfully, we haven't had to take anything higher than 40% this year. And right now, we're at 20 and 30%. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
we're in
and
good
you
shape.
may have seen the rain chance on Derby Day, 20%. Again, initiated on Oaks Day because of this northerly flow, the boundary, the front nearby. That's going to trigger at least a rain chance for us late morning, early afternoon. It looks brief at this point. You know, sometimes in this time of year, we deal with these cutoff lows and they stretch the rain chance for a period of time, sometimes hours, if not half a day. It doesn't look like that in this scenario. What this looks like would be a front that moves through. So you might get a window of an hour, hour and a half of light rain or drizzle. And then we're going to be hopefully dry. Fingers crossed that if we have to deal with rain, that's what we'd be looking at. So that's for Oaks Day, hence the 30% rain chance. Temperature, because of the clouds and the rain chance, near 60. That would probably mean a cooler temperature at post time, which is after dark at 8:40.
8:40 p.m. for that post there on Oaks Day. Here's the Kentucky Derby forecast, and you see a high of 62. That'll be kind of a cooler day. Not a bad one, though. Post time 6:57, 20% chance for a pop-up shower in the afternoon. I think we'll be in pretty good shape on Derby Day. We may be able to get rid of that rain chance just a day too far out to do that at this point. All right, back to the live radar we go, and that's where we find a mess in southern Indiana for the second time today.
Yeah, right. A mess, a mess, a mess. We're still dealing with power outages. I'll tell you, this is the storm we're watching. Let me pause the radar. I'm going to take the satellite off. I'll declutter this the best I can. I'm just going to take a few things off here. I'll keep the warnings on and I'll keep the reflectivity on for now. This tornado warning sits up around Columbus, Indiana. The question is, will we see that impact northern parts of Jennings County? It's hugging that border right now. We look at the velocity on that. Doesn't look too impressive, so that's good. Still a push of wind,
yeah.
But as far as the rotation is concerned, maybe they just extend the severe thunderstorm warning into northern parts of Jennings County. So be on standby. There is potential that we could see some problems out of that.
And that would be very brief and mainly for areas like near Zenas, Indiana, that very northeastern tip of Jennings County that sometimes bites us, unfortunately, because it just sticks out like a sore thumb into areas of central Indiana.
We're not alone in storms, by the way. I should mention as we go back to a wider view, and let me just zoom this out, and I'll pop a wider radar on for you so you can see those storms. They stretch all the way down into Arkansas as well. And with that, some of those ones on the southernmost area feeding off of the sort of wide openness of the south with warm temperatures and plenty of water, that would be the most sort of conducive place to see the rotation, and that's where we see another tornado warning, and that's near Batesville. Our colleague Ryan Vaughn is tracking those storms out of Jonesboro, Arkansas, and we're able to listen in to see him. He's got the debris detection. That is the correlation coefficient. This oftentimes gives us an indication whether we have debris that's been lofted into the atmosphere.
Yeah, so he's looking for any sort of tornado touchdown kind of sign there on the radar.
When we're still seeing stuff like that, could it be debris still falling out? Could be. I'm afraid, though, this thing's going. Let me go back to radar. I'm afraid this thing's going to get right about here and really, really ramp up. So I just really, really want to make sure that as this moves into more populated areas, that you've called all these people. If I hear from someone that says, man, we were in the path of the tornado.
So sort of giving the all call to say, hey, it's late at night. This is a dangerous time. I'll just mention to you, this is not in the wave viewing area. This is nowhere near Louisville. This is closer to Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is our colleague Ryan Vaughn out of KAIT. That's Channel 8. And we're just sort of tapped into his coverage, tracking the storms. Here at home, we're tracking our own storms, and you'll notice that our tornado warning is just sitting just outside of the viewing area. And at this point, there would be no need for that warning to be issued for our viewing area. Why? When we look at the velocity, while we have quite a push of wind, the severe thunderstorm warning covers that. And that's moving through the Seymour area, but the rotation does not look all that great anywhere within there. Now, does that mean the severe weather is negated? No. The wind itself, and you can see Wavy putting in some of the power outages, 5.2%, 1,500 customers without power. We've had a number of areas up that way that have had reduced power because of the strong storms, and we're likely seeing more added to that.
Right. And, southern Indiana has been especially hard hit. Lawrence, Jackson, Jennings counties had some of the highest numbers as well. Shelby County, Kentucky, by the way, I think about 27% of Shelby County was out at one point of tracked customers. That's a big deal out that way. So we're going to continue to watch these storms as they march through. They may take more folks without power. If you lost power, gained it back, you might lose it one more time up there, unfortunately, because the infrastructure can only take so much back and forth with these winds here. And that's what we're watching for, where Kevin's kind of circling in magenta, the leading edge of those winds.
Yeah, a nice little Boeing segment there as this pushes through. And if we sort of put it in motion, you can see, and I'll just back the radar up, you can see it didn't start out like that. And now as it kind of bows out, getting closer there, that would be a push of wind approaching the Scottsburg area. So you're probably going to start to feel some of that powerful wind move into your area, northern parts of Scott County, Indiana. Severe thunderstorm warnings are in place just north of there. In fact, let me just put the warnings on so you can see where those are. And if I highlight them for you, it'll be even easier. And this one includes Bartholomew, Decatur, Jackson, and Jennings. Again, notice the tag, tornado possible with that. A lot of these you're going to see a wind gust to 80 miles an hour and smaller than quarter-size hail, 0.75. So that would be one severe thunderstorm warning. Others sit back to the west, orange, as well as Washington counties, French Lick, Orleans, Paoli, Salem. Severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 12:30. So here we are. The time is 12:13. So another 17 minutes on that warning.
That tornado warning has one more minute on it here, roughly 12:15 or so.
Oh,
So we will see what they do with this. This is kind of decision point. The good news is, based on the radar, I don't think they're going to extend it downstream into Jennings County. That was kind of our concern when we walked into this room here about 10, 15 minutes ago. I think we're going to be in pretty good shape, though. With the rotations kind of fallen out of that. It formed into what we call a little MCV, a little kind of backwards C-shape hook, if you will. Still has that that appearance, I should say, on the reflectivity, but doesn't necessarily have that in the velocity right now. So let's hope NWS Indianapolis agrees with that.
Yeah, I've seen them do crazier things, but the fact is there's stronger wind going on across Jennings County to the south at this point, which is under the severe thunderstorm warning tagged with the tornado possible. So, there is no defined rotation in this. It is a wind maker, yes, but at this point, we're sort of at their mercy to see what kind of warning they keep on it. That is a push of wind that's past Seymour, that's moving into western Jennings County and northern Scott County. So that is the area to watch with the strongest wind around. And we've had some pockets of heavy wind today. We had thousands of people without power, even here in Louisville. The tornado warning is now expired. No new addition at this point. Good news there. But we're still tracking this. So regardless if we were on the main channel or this channel, we're keeping you up to date. We're always streaming when the weather is threatening. And at this point, we still have some pretty powerful winds, people trying to sleep, busy week with all the Derby events. So we wanted to make sure if we were going to be here, we thought we would just jump on and share the information with everybody sitting at home that may have been craving more weather information. So the bottom line on this is, can you go to sleep? And that's what a lot of people most likely want to know. We're not finished with the wind at this point, and we can't rule out some areas of rotation. Most of this is, if we see severe weather out of it, is going to be a wind maker. I think flash flooding is also going to be an issue as we roll through, because we've already seen some areas saturated. You get the heavy rainfall rates. The good news is we're in the middle of the night, and that doesn't impact as much as if we had a lot of traffic out or people out and about.
Right. So without folks trying to do the commute at 12:15 at night, we're in pretty good shape from an impact standpoint, aside from folks being in their homes. So we want to make sure we're protecting people in their homes right now. And right now we have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings and a whole bunch of flash flood warnings that are ongoing here. Another thing to address is the fact that, yes, this will add to the rainfall totals here in Louisville. This could re-aggravate the current flash flooding we have in the city. They've renewed that flash flood warning in Louisville to go way, way past, midnight here. So we'll probably keep that going into the morning hours, most likely here. So if any more rain moves through, we'll be covered by that current warning, most likely here. They may just have to upgrade the tag on it, if anything. But you see there, man, that 4 or 5 plus inch total in Bedford. That's a lot.
Well, and we needed the rain in so many places, so we'll take it. I want to drill down into the metro and show you that some areas, well, this reset at midnight, so it's not going to be a good example.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Kentucky Mesonet, good, though. That was a 24-hour rolling.
Yeah, and there you can see for Louisville, we were at 1.1 or 1.55. Areas surrounding us, likewise, with the highest totals just to our north. For the most part, it was along and north of 64 that picked up this decent rain. South, where you have the deeper drought, unfortunately, you haven't picked up much, but you'll see some rain overnight tonight.
That is 4.2 inches. That is a measured rainfall total. The Virgil Grissom Airport up there in Bedford, Indiana. Just incredible amount of rain up that way today in Lawrence County.
We're still scanning, again, this line of storms, which has a number of severe thunderstorm warnings along it. I don't suspect that we're going to see those die. If you were watching the stream earlier, we said once we hit 11 o'clock, things after that would start to decay and die down, but it takes a little bit of time to power the atmosphere down. It's not a switch. You don't just turn it off and it's like, all right, close up for the night. You're done. We're not going to have any more severe weather. It takes a little bit of time to power the engine of the atmosphere down. And that's what we're seeing. The atmosphere is powering down, but there's still enough that we are seeing some strong wind gust embedded. But over time and each hour that goes by, that threat will decrease. And a lot of folks are now asking, well, wait a minute. We hear you talk about severe weather all the time. And if we haven't had our atmosphere worked over, like places in central Kentucky, will we stand a better chance to see these storms fire back up?
Yeah, and the answer at this point is, the low-level jet may help to amp these storms up a little bit in southern Kentucky. But what we're seeing right now and the state of the atmosphere down there is there's a bit of a stable layer right here where we live at the surface layer of the atmosphere, and that's helping to counteract some of the severe weather potential, which is good. So I don't think we're going to see like this huge flare-up or anything like that. We'll still see this weakening trend overall on this line of storms moving through, but there could be just some localized, one or two spots, whoop, that flared up for like a second and then it's back down again. Those are the things we're going to have to watch. Kevin was saying it's not like a switch. You can't just turn it off. There's a new severe thunderstorm warning west of Evansville, for instance, there. But it's kind of a bumpy road. You're going to hit some bumps on your way to your destination of getting these storms out of our area here.
So we're still seeing some of those storms develop. Again, parts of central Kentucky, yes, you could see a strong storm, mainly a wind maker. That's what we're seeing now in southern Indiana. We haven't had any confirmed reports of any types of damage out of that, though we did see the Seymour power outage go up just a bit. So that tells us that they've had at least some issues with that. Additional thunderstorms with powerful winds moving across parts of Orange County as well. I'm going to pause the radar for a second. Allow me to put on the velocity. We can see where that strongest wind is. The dividing line is kind of the push of wind. And sometimes we can even find pockets of heavier wind within that. So as we're sort of just scanning places just past southeast, moving toward, say, Kirby, Whiskey Run, those would be areas where we see that next push of wind coming in. And anytime we have a bowing segment, a backward
63 mile per hour wind gust, Jackson County, Seymour at the airport.
Yeah, that was measured just a few minutes ago at 12:05.
Yeah.
So that's less than 15 minutes old. So 63 miles per hour. Again, verifying the severe. And you'll notice as I go north, that's that one area we were really watching. So that's pushing now past Seymour. It's moving into western parts of Jennings County and northern Scott County, which is what we were talking about.
Yeah, no surprise there, given the report and what we're seeing on radar with that big push of wind here. So kind of our next areas of concern are places like down toward like Palmyra, Salisbury, Indiana. You can see that kind of very thin line that denotes where we've got that wind shift that's happening within those storms right close to English, Indiana there. That's going to be pushing in from the west here pretty quickly. Lawrence County now up to 2,100 customers without power. It's about 6.5% of the county there. That just jumped up in the last few minutes. Again, no surprise with that. We had the gusty winds start to move in, probably took down some more power lines, trees down on things. You get the idea there. So this is going to be kind of playing a whack-a-mole situation here as we see these individual spots where we have these 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts, additional power outages, maybe a little bit more flash flooding as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see another green polygon or two show up out of this. And Kevin showing you some of those storm reports. Wow, it has been pretty much the story of US 150 there. You can see that's where they're clustered along, basically from Orange County down to Louisville.
That's the latest report that we have out of Seymour. This was the Jackson County airport measurement of 63 mile per hour winds there. And I can show you some of the ones. I mean, it wasn't just wind. We had a number of hail reports earlier in the day. This came in from 1 inch hail. That's quarter size hail in Orange County. We also had a few up here in western parts of Lawrence County. Some, as you worked your way up toward Bloomington, even larger than and that's an 84 mile per hour wind gust, 81 mile per hour wind gust in Monroe County earlier this afternoon. So these are reports that we've had throughout the day. Here in Louisville, it's been mainly flooding, but we have had some wind. And consequently, we had power outages in Jefferson County that exceeded, 6,000 at one point?
Yeah, we had at least 6,000 people without power. They've been getting those folks back online successfully, but we can't rule out some additional power outages even here in Jefferson County overnight tonight.
We look at the rain that's happening across Jefferson County, and I'll just drill down into the metro. You can see that pockets of rain still exist across Jefferson. These are not severe. not producing a lot of wind, not producing anything other than some rain on top of a saturated ground, which yields and certainly bears watching for any flash flooding that could happen, and especially if you're in an area that's sensitive to that. But when we zoom out on this, you're going to see what's coming in, and that's a wall of water that will be pushing in our direction. So expect that if you're not under one of those heavy downpours that may be in the metro now, expect this wall of water to move in. You're going to hear it. You're probably going to see it because we're going to wind up seeing plenty of lightning with this. I haven't had the lightning on. I'll turn it on, and you can see all of this sort of rich with lightning as it moves closer to us.
Yeah, a lot of water means a lot of lightning most typically here when you get these high humidity setups where you've got dew points pushing 65, 70 degrees. You're typically going to see big old lightning counts in these storms. This is much like a setup that you would see in the summertime, believe it or not. Very rich moisture, big old line of storms moving through. It feels every bit like sort of a September MCS trying to move in from the north and west.
Which, I mean, how crazy has it been this year? What are we off of our warmest April?
This is our warmest April.
Warmest April.
Yep.
We've had so many above average days. It's almost like we skipped spring in some ways.
Yeah.
And here we are sliding below average just in time for Oaks and Derby, right?
Isn't that wild?
The timing, right?
At least it won't be storming on those days.
Fingers crossed.
That's the good news on that.
Oh, if it storms on those days, I'm out. There's no way.
After all we've been through already, and it's just it's just Monday.
We stress out
It's
about
actually Tuesday.
Derby. Yeah. Tuesday it is.
Tuesday.
Hey, we've got another 6 minutes on this one warning that we're looking at for Washington County, Indiana. That combined with, and let me go farther to the north, and I'll put on this warning information. Well, not that one. Let me go back. And I'm just going to choose that one. So that includes parts of Jennings County. That one is the one with the tornado possible tag. That goes until 12:45. So that will be, the longest warning that we have in the viewing area, but it'll be out of our county probably within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So those are the only warnings. I'll take those off.
It's interesting. Special weather statement now for Breckenridge, Hancock, Meade, and Ohio counties till 1:15 a.m. So National Weather Service in Louisville not going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning for that segment you see near Tell City, northwest of Brandenburg. They're going to go with what we call an SPS or a special weather statement there. That indicates to us that they don't have the appetite to issue the warning at this point for that segment. That's good.
And there hasn't been a warning with it for quite some time. Obviously, they're not hearing reports out of it, or they would flag that. So that is good. That would be the general area. This whole line, let me just put a track on that. I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit so we can. And what is that sinking south at? What would you guess? Probably. It says it's moving east at 60. That was that one storm. So I'm going to say probably 45, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, those storms earlier were 35 miles per hour.
So they've picked up speed. I'll just call it 50. This is going to be close, give or take 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. So if we track this line, I'll just do the base of that, and we swing this off to the south and east. I thought that was a new warning coming up. Oops, I messed my line up. Let me do that one more time. So I'm just going to grab the bottom of this whole line. Boom, 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 boom. Hang on.
Getting there.
It's hard with the mouse,
We're doing this on a remote connection to this computer too, which is even harder.
It didn't let go. It's like, let go. All right, one more time. And if I can't do it, we'll just explain it. There we go.
Hey.
So it's moving kind of south and east. I said 50 miles an hour. These will be some approximate times for you. So say for Louisville, 103.
For Louisville here. Yeah.
That's going to be close. So it might be let's just say between 1 and 1:15.
Yeah, I like that.
So that would be a decent time for that to arrive here. So it is moving, sinking off to the south and east. Again, just pointing out sort of what Ryan mentioned and what the Weather Service mentioned. The severe thunderstorm warnings that we have, there's one there for Washington County that expires in 3 minutes. And then we have the one across parts of Jennings County farther to the north. And that one will expire in 18 minutes.
Boom, just like that.
So those are the only two warnings that we currently have in the viewing area. There are warnings that exist back out here to the west of Evansville, but none in this area here, which is why this area hasn't seen any additional warnings issued.
Yeah. So for you folks in Litchfield, we're going to be watching that one warning southwest of Evansville. We'll see what that does. Still a lot of time before that hits y'all down there. So most likely that will weaken somewhat. Again, these storms are encountering a prohibitive environment here with the, obviously the sun has been set for many hours now, and there's just not as much instability in areas east of I-65. There's kind of a pinching off of moisture and instability that's happening. And the reservoir of that is basically south and west of Evansville right now. And that's why they have a tornado watch versus our severe thunderstorm watch. We don't have the ingredients, they do. And tornado warning, eastern Jennings County. We need to get into the studio.
So this is going to be for eastern Jennings County. Let me see if we can just do this from in here.
Okay. Kevin's going to try to get a hold of our studio or our control room here.
Hello, control room. Can you hear us? I'll tell you, let me just pop in there real quick and we see if we can't just go on from in here. Easier.
So for you guys watching here, we do have a tornado warning. This is going to be for the eastern part of Jennings County, Indiana. Let's zoom in on that here. Boom, there we go. This goes until 12:45 Eastern. This includes Butlerville. This is not going to take long to get this out of here. This will be a very fast thing, literally just the northeast, like 20% of Jennings County currently under this warning.
All right, we're going to have to break into the NBA game just to bring you an update on what is happening across the area. Sophia, when you have that information, you can let me know and we'll jump on. And I'm on the yellow. Yep. Hi, everybody. Kevin Harned, Ryan Hoke. We're bringing nonstop tornado weather coverage to you. This is not going to last long because this is in our extreme northern Indiana community. Parts of Lawrence County have seen severe weather throughout the day today, and the latest warning being issued for Jennings County is now coming in until 12:45. So 15 minutes on this. We're tracking this through Butlerville. This storm has had a history of producing strong winds. We saw these measured at over 60 miles per hour coming in out of the Seymour area.
Right, and these storms have had a history of putting down wind damage across the US 50 corridor of southern Indiana here. This very skinny tornado warning, again, only encompassing the Butlerville area of the Jennings County corridor there. And this is going to be over not too much time, 10, 15 minutes. We should be able to be out of your hair here. So just stick with us and we'll have the latest as we go through time.
I should point out this does not include Brewersville. This does not include North Vernon. This does not include Hayden. This is in a somewhat rural area near the Butlerville area, right along US 50. This storm moving through with very strong winds will be approaching Nebraska, Indiana, and then eventually across the county line. And again, it's a very narrow tornado warning that is in place for another 15 minutes across parts of northern and far eastern parts of Jennings County, Indiana.
Yeah.
We've had the report, and the only report that we've had would be the wind, and that was a 63 mile per hour gust coming out of Seymour in the airport there.
Yeah, KSER Airport in Seymour had that wind gust not too long ago, just after midnight here. We're showing you, again, the reflectivity here, kind of showing you that wavy pattern from Zenith down toward Nebraska, Butlerville. This is along US 50 in Jennings County, Indiana. Whenever you get these squiggles like this in a line of storms, that gives us pause because that's where rotation can develop. And that one little jut back near Butlerville there is the most concerning look to this thing. And that's why the National Weather Service in Indianapolis decided to put out that tornado warning for the very northeastern part there of Jennings County. If you're in North Vernon, this doesn't involve you. And as we zoom out, look how few of us are under warnings right now. This is not a Louisville problem. This is not a Kentucky problem. This is just northeast Jennings County, Indiana.
The rest of us, there are no warnings currently in place, minus the flooding that we have going on, and that will be only aggravated by the heavy rain that's moving back in. However, the only severe warning that we have is the tornado warning in our viewing area, north and eastern parts of Jennings County. If you are in that area, you should be in your tornado safe place. Strong winds have been reported with this over 60 miles an hour, and obviously, if we were to see any tornado out of the deal, that could put down even more damage. This is moving past the Zenas area as well as Butlerville. It has already passed North Vernon, so the warning does not include you. This is right along US 50 in southern Indiana as you make your way into the very northern part of the wave viewing area.
Yeah, these storms have been moving at a pretty good clip, so they're not going to last too long in the Butlerville area here. Some of these warnings have had forward speeds on them of 70 to 80 miles per hour. That's how fast the storms are moving, not necessarily how fast the winds are that are making it to the ground here. As we approach the 12:45 time frame, about 12 minutes left on this morning here, that's when we'll see that expiration. About 6 lightning strikes, by the way, within the last 10 minutes within this segment of storms that you're seeing here. So it's not a big lightning maker, which is some good news. Typically, storms with a ton of lightning and then the lightning count drops very suddenly. That's when you run into tornado problems. This is not that situation here. This is just sort of a baseline tornado threat for the Butlerville area. We've had no reports of any sort of confirmed tornado damage, nor tornado actually touching the ground here. But again, this is out of an abundance of caution. You see the newest radar update there. With the county line being very, very close to where this rotation is. Kevin's putting on some of the times for you there, but you get the idea that this will be moving out of Jennings County in just mere minutes.
Yeah, we'll be able to get you back even before the expiration time. Once this crosses that county line, the NBA is back on for you for those watching. If you're watching on our digital stream, we've been online covering this for a while now. We are tracking these storms across the area. I zoomed out on this a while ago, and I'll point out here in Louisville that we don't have severe weather moving in, minus the flooding, but we do have the potential for some lightning, some thunder moving our way, and possibly some gusty winds, but likely staying below severe limits. At this point, some of the heaviest rain is lined up across southern Washington County, moving into northern parts of Clark County, northern Harrison County, about to move into northern Floyd, arcing through Crawford and swinging back toward Evansville. The threat of severe weather will continue to gradually decrease as the night goes on, with heavy rain expected. Consequently, I think our biggest issue might be some flash flooding through the overnight hours.
And flash flooding can be some of the most deadly weather that we encounter in our area. You know, tornadoes kind of get all the glory, but unfortunately, flash flooding can be a whole lot deadlier. So please turn around, don't drown. There's a new radar scan. This is just about over. We are getting real close.
It's moving 65 miles an hour off to the east, so this is a very quick hitting. As soon as we see the next scan come in, we can get this part out of the county, because this is the county line. We'll be able to move off real fast. So we're at 12:36. I suspect within the next 2 minutes, we'll be able to bail out of this tornado warning for you, get you back to the ball game for folks that were watching the NBA on NBC. And for those that want nonstop weather coverage, we'll keep going on our digital streams, and you can find us on the Wave Weather and the Wave News app. For the most part, we'll just keep stressing the threat of severe weather is minor across the area for tonight. We're watching that area to our north and west and back out to our south and east, southwest and northeast, where we have these storms pushing through the area. So again, looking to the north. And as you look up toward the North Vernon area, the Madison area, farther to the north, heavy rain. The only issue is that tornado warning that we have, but it is just about out of our viewing area. And then the cluster of thunderstorms back to our south and west across parts of far western Kentucky. Those will likely stay just off to the west of our viewing area as well. So let me go back up. We'll check one more time on this storm. The new scan will be coming in momentarily, and once that happens, we'll be able to bail out.
Yeah, so what you can see right now is there's the new scan. Just as we said, the danger is pretty much almost completely past here.
We'll get you back to the NBA on NBC. Sorry for the interruption. We're making sure we keep everybody that may have heard the tornado sirens go off updated. We'll continue with our nonstop weather coverage on all of the digital platforms from Wave.
Okay.
All right, so we're back on the stream here with everybody.
Someone in the comments, and it made me almost giggle on the air, said that it was good that we were on because apparently the game was going terribly.
I don't even know who's playing, to be
It was
honest.
the Wolves, I guess, the Timberwolves, Minnesota Timberwolves, question mark. Apparently they're not doing too well tonight, and this was a merciful thing that we
A
did
reprieve.
covering up for that.
Well, hopefully it's not over, or we didn't miss it in a whatever. So
That's the only time I've ever seen someone compliment us for covering up a
thanks
sports game.
to Sophia and Jeremiah in the control room for getting us on quickly, and that works out well when we could just do it from in here, especially for something so short. If we were going to be on for any length of time, we'd have gone in the studio.
But works pretty well in here, which is fantastic. It allows us to be a little bit more flexible in these 10-minute tornado warning situations like we're in tonight here. So thanks for your patience, and we appreciate you guys sticking with us here and watching throughout us kind of volleying between television and our digital stream here.
Boy, how that's all changed over the years,
Yeah, it's a lot better for viewers, though. I'll say that there's a lot more options. You guys, can access us more readily here. It just expired that tornado warning, so that's out of here officially. We pulled the plug on it a little earlier than they did. But yeah, I mean, you guys can always kind of, have a connection to us here with these live streams. Whenever anything's happening, we're on. It used to be we would just sit around and watch this stuff when it was just severe thunderstorm warnings and maybe break in on TV every once in a while. But no, we're just going to go live wall to wall here instead.
Now we never stop talking.
Oh, that's
right?
how it works, right?
Chatter, chatter, chatter. All right, what are people saying? Let's talk to them. Let's talk to the people. Hope.
Rosie says, glad this line is weakening.
Me too.
Lots of folks asking about their individual locations.
All right.
Kind of tough to, deal with that. Poor May.
Well, let's say who's in the clear, though, because we can clear some folks behind this initial line, yes?
Let's do that.
You were saying, oh, poor May.
Well, she said, I have to go to work in 2 hours and I can't sleep.
Well, join our schedule,
I
May.
get it.
We
I
feel
totally get
your
it.
pain. Did you get any sleep last night? You were here late.
I was here late.
Oh, you were interrupted by the NBA, too.
I was. Yeah. So I got home at about 1:30 last night, got to bed at like 2, got up at like 8. So I'm all right. Had a latte at around 4:30 and that helped.
That was just enough to charge you up.
that
Should have
was
just
good.
had the espresso.
Yeah, I'm running
been really wired.
I'm running out of gas over here again, so we're gonna have to
Go get another
power
latte.
through, right?
It sounds like.
It sounds like it.
All right, let's. I said we'd call the all clear for some areas. If you're in Bedford, Mitchell, Seymour, Dudley Town, Crothersville, you're in the clear. Salem, Indiana, in the clear. Paoli, in the clear. Jasper, in the clear. You guys are all good. Anything, again, north of the line that you see, and by the line, I'm referencing this zone. And of course, we've got this little appendage to the north. So we're obviously watching that, but that's outside of our viewing area. So anything north of Madison, Scottsburg, Salem, and English, you're in the clear.
And that's
Fair enough.
good news. We like that.
It's going to move through fairly fast. This whole line is sinking at about 35, well, probably a little faster than that, probably 45 to 50 miles an hour. And as that moves through Louisville within the next hour, we're going to be in the clear. So, yeah, you might be up to 1:30, 2 o'clock. But after that, things will be easing. And again, I think it's important to stress hour by hour, every minute that goes by, the threat of severe weather is gradually getting lower and lower. Can't take it all the way out completely because, again, it's that cycling, the powering down of the atmosphere that we talked about. Takes some time.
And the good news about this line of storms here in regards to flooding is that it is moving, all right? What we had happen earlier today just did not want to move. This is finally going to kick all of this out of here. So we may see an exacerbation of the flooding very briefly, especially here maybe in Louisville. And then we'll see that rainfall rate come down very quickly. So that will help us out. Let's kick the rain out of here. And let's give Southern Kentucky some of this rain. They need it more than anybody else in our counties right now because they're under the worst of the drought at this point.
Yeah, send it on down there, right?
That'd be some good stuff.
They
for
could
them.
use it.
Oh, yeah.
There's just not a lot happening. We have no current warnings in our viewing area, minus the flash flood warning that has been going on for hours now. That's obviously the biggest issue that we're going to be facing at this point. And I think that is the biggest issue we're going to be facing through the night, is going to be seeing this next round of heavy rain moving in. And that's going to cause just a little bit of an issue with any kind of flash flooding that takes place. But at this time of night, it doesn't impact as many folks.
A lot of folks complaining about no power in Greenville from Kendra. Chelsea, Indiana. Hello, May. You have no power. Salem has no power. Eric up that way. So these are, southern Indiana communities that were hit earlier this evening by storms. You guys are getting hit again. Thankfully, these storms aren't as bad, but it may be slowing down power restoration efforts, because I know getting those wires back up and heavy rain and wind like this is probably a nightmare for the power crews. So thanks to all those folks who are out and about trying to get everybody back online tonight. I know that's a big job, especially because we have so many scattered power outages. It may not be just like one spot, but in a certain county, let's just say like Orange County, for instance, you may have like 20 or 30 spots that the power crews have to go take care of tonight. That's a big job, even in a rural county like that.
Well, and, we think about not having power, the problems that come with that for so many, especially when it's out for hours and hours. And when it is so sporadic, it's not like you can get it back online too quickly. It's not just like going to the substation and being like, okay, well, now everybody's back on. No, some of these instances, we've seen the wires ripped off of the poles and they have to go restring them, or in some cases, maybe put up new poles.
Yeah. And some of this damage has been pretty extensive this evening, like up in Seymour. I mean, Seymour got battered. We had a home that was destroyed, barns flattened, major flooding in many parts of Seymour up that way. Pretty big power outage. Trees that were, that were very, very large in diameter that were just pretty much shredded and taken down to the ground. It'll be interesting to see what sort of damage survey may come from all of that as we go throughout the day tomorrow. See if NWS Indianapolis wants to do anything with that, just because that was pretty severe damage for straight line winds. We'll see what happens.
Lots of lightning we keep pointing out, and we see some of that from our SkyTrack camera. But I'll tell you where they're seeing even more of. It's back out in Arkansas. I can see their cameras in front of us too, and they're rolling with lightning. That is wicked. But we have lightning with all of these storms moving through. Some folks may be saying, why is the tornado warning still lit up if they canceled it? Well, the machine, it drops it.
Boom, it's gone.
And now it's gone because it hit the expiration time of 12:45.
It's done. We killed it for you. Let's see. Kenny here is asking.
Who killed Kenny? Oh, wait a minute. That's the wrong show. I thought you said that.
Hold on.
Didn't you? Is that what you said?
I said we killed the tornado warning. And then let's now transition to Kenny's comment.
I thought you said they killed Kenny.
No.
Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do, by the way. Child of the 90s.
I figured you may not know.
Anyway.
Mainly because you're young, not because you wouldn't know.
Well, I may have been 6 when that show premiered, but I still watched it. Can you show the power outage map? Mr. Kenny Agee is asking for. Yes, we can do that. We will show you the power outage map, because that really does tell the story of what's going on, on the ground here. If we can find the power outage map.
Yeah, you'd think I would have it loaded, but maybe I don't. Let me, one moment.
Let's put the elevator on hold music on here. And while that's happening, while we're loading that for you, Kenny, who's very much alive, thank you. We'll show you those power outage numbers here in just a minute. Oh, everybody's now rolling on the floor about South
we got a new tornado warning?
Oh, shoot.
Let me go back. Hang on.
Yeah, hold on, guys. We may have to.
I don't know what that was.
I saw that too.
I'm not seeing it.
What was that? Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah, you all saw that at home too, right? That was weird. I don't see it on radar scope at all.
One moment.
Was that a fluke? Huh. Yeah, Wavy doesn't see anything. I think that was just our graphic system seeing an
Trying
old
to catch
thing.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Well, sometimes we get a little antsy.
We're a little jittery.
I mean, I did see it.
Yeah.
I know I'm not that crazy.
I think that was an artifact from the earlier tornado warning. When we tried to switch scenes, it had a thumbnail image that was old that flashed up there with that.
I'm seeing if it. Yeah.
I think we're good. Okay.
But look at the power outages coming back into
more
view.
importantly.
Shoosh.
Oh, Crawford. Hello, Crawford. That's not good. Ooh, 35%.
So we got about 3,000 customers without power, 35%. We go over to Kentucky. This is Trimble, 36%, almost 1,300 customers. Clark County not reporting. That may be a fluke on our end. We'll work on that tomorrow. about 2,500, 10% Washington County. Let's go Scott County. That's another 1,200. What about Louisville? This has gone way down. We were over 6,000 and now we're under 3,000. So that's good movement on that. And then Shelby County, one of the higher reporting outages in Kentucky, that's coming in with about 2,500 outages.
Clark County is down to 171 customers out. That's why it's not popping up. So their power crews there in good shape. Yeah, just check the website and our data there. It's all flowing. So that's good.
All right.
So they've got good news to report. They got gapped, it looks like there. That got really lucky. Holy cow.
Was Kenny asking for a particular location?
No, he just wanted to see the whole map.
Okay.
I think he was looking for an overview here just to see where everything is.
All right. Well, there you go. These are the flood issued warnings that we have, and we still have heavier rain pushing closer to the Ohio River as we speak. So again, aggravating that. Next in line for any issues out of wind, I would say, would be our Kentucky counties down toward Breckenridge, Meade, Grayson. If we see any additional warnings pop, it's probably going to be in this general. I don't know why this thing is not liking me today.
You're just not having very good luck.
No, I'm not. In this general area here. So that would be a zone to watch for the potential of some stronger storms moving in.
Yeah, Crystal's down in Grayson County. She's like, we haven't had any storms yet today, had some clouds, but, what are we doing down here with this untapped atmosphere? And I think you're getting ready to see that in action, perhaps with the storms to the west that are starting to take aim at Grayson County. Grayson, Hart, Taylor, Green, Adair, you guys are kind of in a spot that may get exposed to those warnings you see. As these storms cross I-65, though, we should see them weaken.
They just popped a tornado warning.
Okay.
So that, again, on the southern flank of this is that zone we said we would need to watch.
Yeah.
So that'll be an area that we watch closely, all right? But notice everything between here and there is a gap, and that happens to be our viewing area, which is pretty nice. Now, the part that may not be so nice, because this tornado warned storm, let's get the stats on that. So we'll track that and see where it's moving. Let me give you the details on what you need to know about this. It's outside of the viewing area. That's important. So this is for Hopkins, McLean, Webster, Davies County, and that goes until 12:30 local time. So it's 1:30 Louisville time. So that's their time, Central Daylight Time.
So it may take until, almost 2 o'clock in the morning to really see that closer to the Grayson County area. That's still way out there. I mean, that's I-69 just south of Evansville.
So that storm is moving east at 55 miles an hour. And again, it's radar indicated. So there is nothing. So I can put the velocity on just to see what they're seeing. Yeah. So you can see why they issued the warning. I'll zoom in just a little bit. We'll just kind of work with this.
Remember I was saying earlier, bumps in the road, guys. It's not like this steady, everything's getting better and better with time. There's going to be a bump or two like this right here before we get all the way better tonight.
Well, we have a lot of collisions going on along this line. So as this front makes its way through, we're still feeding off of the low-level jet. There's still some energy. The general trend will be to bring the coverage of severe weather down, but we can't rule out storms like this where we see a couplet that obviously you've got to issue the warning for because it's there on the radar, and it certainly could produce some problems. At this point, it's radar indicated. Still some very strong wind under that as it moves over toward Ashbyburg.
Ashbyburg it is. Yeah, again, this is just outside of the Wave Country viewing area here. I know Misty was asking about Breckenridge County and she needs to take cover. No, we don't have any warnings in our counties that would require that right now. We're just keeping an eye on stuff for basically Grayson County. This is aiming toward Grayson right now, the way this is looking.
Yeah, if we were to track this, again, what did we say? It was moving east at 55.
Yeah, double fives.
So let me type that in, 55. I'm going to track the core of that storm, and let's just say it's going to keep moving in that direction, right? Now, obviously, as we go out in time, the cone gets wider because it's uncertainty. It's likely not necessarily going to go farther north, so some of those areas you may not even have to worry about. But if it were to be somewhere within that cone, we would look at Litchfield coming in at 108 Central. So
208 Louisville, yeah.
Munfordville at 232 Central or 132 Central. So just to give you an idea, that's not to say it's going to maintain its intensity or even move into those areas. It's if it does, that would be close to the timing you would expect.
I think we're getting rain here at the station. Just heard that on the roof.
Yeah, can we see it from our SkyTrack?
Yeah, there we go. And that is New Albany, by the way, raining profusely there. We did get some lightning strikes on this just a moment ago. We'll see if we get another one here.
We haven't had, well, of course, we're inside. I haven't been watching the SkyTrack camera all night, but haven't had as much lightning as what the radar makes it look like. So some of that being obscured.
Yeah, and sometimes you're not looking in the right direction, too. It just kind of depends on that. You know, we speak as if we're experts on weather in a windowless building here that we've been in for hours today, which is kind of funny if you think about it. Yeah, lightning, never great to be outside in that. So stay away from doors and windows as these storms move through, guys.
So Davis County, it is Davis in Kentucky, right?
Davies,
it's Davies in Indiana.
Yeah. Correct us if we're wrong on
Henderson,
that,
McLean, and Webster. Well, I think it's Davis in Kentucky as it looks like Davies. And of course, Kentucky says it
spelled the same way. It's just
different.
Pronounced two different ways.
So
coming down hard and Prospect again.
Let's go back to the Metro view.
And Nancy, it is safe to go to bed in Clarksville, Indiana. If you like a good rainy night to sleep with, this is it.
I love a rainy night.
I knew he would start doing that. It's like his
call and response. I used to be terrified of severe weather.
Yeah.
And probably heavy rain. And my brother was much older than me. Well, I say much older. He's 6 years older than me.
Yeah.
And he would never want me in his room ever, but certainly when there was severe weather. So I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared of the storms. Let me in. No, that's what big brothers act like, I guess. You were a big brother, so you probably did that to your siblings. But my parents, they'd be like, go back to bed. So I would just start singing I Love a Rainy Night, trying to talk myself and hype myself back up into not being scared. It was my grandmother. She would get the holy water out on storms. And of course, who wouldn't be scared as a kid if you saw that, right?
Yeah, that would be kind of a hairy, like exorcist-like experience right there.
She would go sit in the storm cellar for hours.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay.
Mortified of storms.
I get it. It's not fun.
Took me a while to break out of, actually.
Dave says several trees and power lines down in Scott County. Few reports of trees on houses. Wind and storms are ongoing.
Yeah, the strongest is moving past Scott County. You can see Lexington, Indiana, Vienna, Austin. Scottsburg's not on the map, but it's in Scott County. So the worst is past there. The worst is past Henryville. The worst is past New Washington. It is passing Corydon as we speak. It is passing New Albany, Prospect, downtown Louisville as we speak. Northern Oldham County, all seeing the strongest of this move through. So that is making its way through.
Tawana just texted us the holy water. Dang, Kevin.
It's true. It's true.
She's up and watching. Hi, Tawana.
She might be here. I don't know where she is exactly, but she's getting close because they're out at the track every day this week. So
might have to get here earlier to get to the track.
Extra time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well,
this is a wonky week for our schedules, if you couldn't tell.
Oh, throw a little severe weather in. We'll see how nutty we'll be by the end of the week.
I should be asleep right now. Kevin should be asleep right now.
I'm usually still here at night.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't be still asleep.
Yeah. We're just tracking these storms. Again, we're not going to leave until we see what this deal is going to do back to the west. That is the cluster of storms that will have the greatest potential. It's good to see some stuff out ahead of it that will hopefully rob a little bit of that energy from it. But you can see the little notch on that storm.
I like that.
So this would be a little concerning feature if we were just looking at the reflectivity, which is what we have here. Yeah. So let's take a closer look. I'm going to zoom into this, and let's just do a little radar meteorology. So there is the reflectivity. If we look at the velocity on this, that is where we have the greatest potential for the rotation. So again, that is not an area that we would want to see on the radar. That would be the concerning part of the radar. You can see that it is outlined with a severe thunderstorm warning, but we also have the tornado warning embedded within that. So that is the couplet That is the reason the tornado warning has been issued. Again, this is outside of our viewing area, but it is what we are watching. Why? Well, there is a chance, if it holds together, that would move closer to parts of southern Breckenridge and more likely Grayson County.
Yeah, and that's a pretty clear couplet. You know, we've had a few instances today where it's like you strain to see where the rotation is. You know, it makes sense from a meteorology perspective. Like, yeah, there would be rotation here, but you really just don't see it on the velocity as much. This one you can see. So that definitely gives us some pause for concern.
New
Yep,
severe
warning.
thunderstorm warning coming out, and this is going to be off to our north and east. This includes parts of Franklin, Henry, Oldham, and Shelby counties, and this is in place until 1:30, and that's our time here. So that includes Christiansburg, Crestwood, and Eminence. Severe thunderstorm warning coming out for this storm, so weather radios would be going off at this point. Again, looking at the velocity for this, we're not necessarily looking for rotation, but we are looking for a push of wind. And we can see that along that boundary as well, moving through Smithfield, Newcastle, making your way down into northwestern parts of Shelby County as we speak.
Yeah. So again, this is just for wind. The hail is not much of a concern. In fact, that the hail part of this whole equation is pretty much over with for the night. We're only looking for wind and the isolated tornado threat. And that tornado threat is basically only in the western third of Kentucky right now, and Grayson County may be kind of exposed to that, and that's why we're going to keep an eye on things here for the next hour or so, most likely.
A lot of folks watching. We appreciate that. Anytime there's active weather, anytime there's an alert day, we always do more frequent updates. Certainly Derby week, we've got our schedule packed with weather updates, especially with the active weather, but also because of all the events that we have. Alert days are simply meant to get your attention when we think the weather could impact your plans. Sometimes, like for thunder over Louisville, just because of a decent rain chance, doesn't have to be always severe. But if we think the weather will impact things you're doing, and that included on thunder, the lightning chance through the afternoon, that was the reason for that alert day. Good news is that sort of faded. The rain chances were minimal, so we had a decent thunder this year, which was nice. And I say decent, meaning at least we had it. Last year with the flooding, we didn't. And then several of the balloon events got off, especially Thursday late with the glow, early Friday. We got rained out for Friday evening for the glow, and then Saturday morning we had the fog around. Didn't stop the road runners, but it did stop the balloonists Saturday morning. So we've had a lot of the Derby Festival events, which sometimes gets squashed by bad weather. We're watching the radar. 2 warnings to talk about. The only one that we have in the viewing area outside of the flooding, and I won't talk about those. Let's just kind of keep this geared towards severe. This is for Franklin, Henry, Oldham, and Shelby until 1:30. And then the other one is outside of the viewing area, but that is the tornado warning that we're watching to see how close that will move and if it holds together for parts of Grayson County.
Yeah, so we've got Pea to nickel-size hail, Orchard Grass Hills, Fincastle, here in Louisville with these storms moving through. So just because the hail threat has pretty much eased doesn't mean we won't see small hail. The small hail is non-damaging, thankfully, and that's pretty much all that the atmosphere has left to give for these, of course, storms that are moving through the Louisville area at the moment here. So there we go with Clark County. We were just giving you guys praise. Clark County, you now have 1,000 customers without power. That's 1.4%. You've kind of unfortunately gone back to having a power outage concern in Clark County at this point here. Kevin's, of course, showing you all the warnings, and you see that one tornado warning just west of Grayson and Breckenridge counties at the moment. Oh, this is fun. The graphic system is having a moment here. We've gotten so late at night that our graphic system is running its backup process. So it's a little slower than usual. I think that's what happened there.
Yeah, there's your Clark County.
1,003 customers without power down that way. So
we still see the greatest in terms of percentages coming out of Crawford County with over 3,000, 37%. Now we're adding this to Trimble County. They have 39%, so theirs has gone up as well.
That's pretty bad for them up there by percentage. Yeah.
And then even Carroll County getting in on the outage at about 24%. percent.
58 mile per hour gust, Oldham County Mesonet. And that's why they issued that severe thunderstorm warning, by the way. I was finally able to log back into NWS chat. That's why I've been fiddling with my phone for the last 25 minutes. It's a mess. They auto log you out every 30 or 60 days. And guess what? That happened to be at midnight tonight that happened to my phone. Fantastic.
Now, I'm oddly, I don't know what happened to my radar view. It's odd that got
Why
turned.
has that failed?
I can't even.
What? I've never seen that before.
I can't even enable my radar.
That's going to be a problem. Let's see if I can hack it
Slightly.
here. If you want to dance, I can see if I can fix this here.
Yeah, I can dance. Let me move this onto something else. In fact,
That is
I'm
bizarre.
going to put up the.
We have seen this happen before at around 1 o'clock in the morning. That's interesting. That's
we
not-
have?
Yeah, that is not the first time.
All right, I put a radar in.
Okay.
So this is the
Perfect.
current radar view. You'll notice that with the winds, what were they, 58?
58 miles per hour.
So
Yeah.
severe moving in Oldham County. Notice the tornado warning south of Owensboro. That's the one we're tracking. Will that hold together and move into parts of Grayson County? Possible. That is the one that shows the greatest rotation. There is a couplet on that storm. But hey, I mean, tornado warning or not, we're dealing with some strong winds embedded within this line. The good news is it's not everywhere. So while we have and you see some small branches down in LaGrange, so this is just going back to the sort of confirm that 58 mile per hour wind, which can cause issues like this, that at least we don't have damage taking place everywhere. It's embedded in pockets. So just to point out, what we've been saying is there would be a slow decrease in severe weather coverage. Earlier, there were warnings along the entire line. At this point, we just have the one warning, covers several counties, parts of Franklin, parts of Oldham, working your way up into Henry County. That's one storm. That's the one where we had the 58 mile per hour wind gust across the area. And then the next one is bringing in that new tornado warning right up against Grayson County. So I tell you, we're probably going to need to be ready to go on the air within the next half hour for Grayson County. This one's going to take a little bit longer. We need to decide whether we want to do that from in here or make our way to the studio. Sometimes it's easier with some of the equipment we have in here. Let me go back over and let me take the flooding warning off. You can see that flashing polygon down just to the western side of Litchfield and Grayson County. So that's the area we're watching. This storm is still a ways away. It's moving at about 50 to 55 miles an hour to the east. And let's take a closer look with the velocity on that. Move it back. And you can see the greatest rotation right over the Calhoun area. So we still have that couplet. That has not gone anywhere. You're seeing pea-sized hail there in LaGrange. So this is the storm of concern. This is the one, at least in terms of the possible tornado. We don't have that farther to the north, though we do have wind along that area that's been moving through parts of Oldham County. Now it's out of Oldham. It's moving into northern Shelby, parts of Henry County. That's pushing past Newcastle, Raymond Hill. That's an area where we are watching the strongest winds, and you can see that all the way up through New Liberty at this point. So that's an area that we are keeping a close eye on with that potential of strong wind. All right. That's moving now into Owen County. That's starting to move outside of the viewing area. But for us, that warning would still include, and let me just pop it on here for you. And that includes parts of Franklin, Henry, Oldham, and Shelby. And that will be for mainly wind, though we have had some small hail out of that. And that's the same storm. I mean, the reason that's there is we had the wind at 58 miles an hour moving through Oldham County. The strongest of the winds are passing by parts of central Jefferson County with this line of storms. That continues to make its way off to the south and southeast. Again, still some decent winds through here as that continues its movement. Plenty of lightning, You can see the lightning strikes that have turned on there. You're back.
I'm back. Had to grab the old iPad. My phone's almost dead. We're going to do a little tornado warning dance here tonight. Gotta make sure we get the data, right?
Yeah, I think maybe doing it from in here would be easiest. Let's see how this cranks up. We have a little bit of time to make the decision.
Yeah, I'm just going to get logged into all my Slack stuff here so that we can get ready for that.
So if you have friends or family in Grayson County, especially the western side, it might be a good idea to say, hey, the wave team is keeping an eye on this storm. You might just make sure you have a way to get warnings, turn on the forecast. We're going to be here to keep you updated, because that's probably the greatest signature that we've had in our area today.
That's a problem.
So that shows at least signs of rotation. That's mainly some strong wind. And along that entire line, we've got the threat of some wind. Again, we push back to the north. That seems to be weakening just a bit, though we still have some of that. You see that orange? That's where we have some strong winds. So mainly over into the New Liberty area north of Monterey. But even, I'll zoom in even more. This is going to go mainly over the Bethlehem area, Cropper, Christiansburg. Those would be some areas across parts of Henry and northern parts of Shelby County that would experience some of the strongest wind at this point. So just pointing out some of that wind. That's a severe thunderstorm warning. That severe thunderstorm warning remains in place for just a bit longer. It's 1:09 now. That warning until 1:30. So we've got another 21 minutes on that severe thunderstorm warning. That's a very large warning that they issued. That storm likewise moving off to the south and southeast. How fast is that storm moving? By all accounts, it looks like it's moving roughly at about 60 miles an hour off to the south and east.
So these are hauling it. Interstate speeds tonight. We have seen between 60 or 55 really and 80 mile per hour speeds on some of these storms. So this will not take long to get all of this through here. We will definitely be done by 4 a.m. With this severe weather risk, if not, probably 2:30, 3 o'clock, the way things are trending right now that we've cut the area in half with this line of storms from just south of Carrollton through Louisville and down toward Brandenburg, Kentucky. Hello, Brandenburg. You guys are getting it at this point. Small tree branches now down in LaGrange from Wavy there via the MPing report. We are in communication with the National Weather Service. That's why I picked up this little beauty right here so that we could make sure that we're not doing this blind in a room where we don't typically do long-form tornado warning coverage here. But that's kind of what
you don't have them on your phone. You don't have to have a fancy iPad.
Well, my phone has 4% left.
Oh,
this has 96% left. So guess what we're doing? But you get the idea here. We're going to be trying to give you the full service experience from in here if we can. Adair County now clocking in with 1% without power down that way. That's probably because of wind ahead of those storms, not the storms themselves, because they're not even close to Adair County just yet.
Yeah, no, they have seen nothing. They probably haven't even had rain today.
No,
much.
They're wishing for it.
There are a couple of downpours out ahead of this main line, but that's nothing to be too concerned with. It really is that line of storms and the greatest rotation again. We look for those wiggles, the squiggles, or whatever you want to call them, embedded within that line. This is where we would have that. And you can see that one notch there. That's certainly the greatest. And when I show you the reflectivity, and take that off, you can see that that is getting stronger right over the Calhoun-Livermore area. So that's no question what has our greatest attention at this point. That, again, maybe we should look at the correlation coefficient on that just to see if there would be any potential for any damage. And what we're looking for in the CC, or the debris detection, sorry, I wanted to take that X off, will be an area that shows up in many cases as blue, or something that stands out as it doesn't fit in with the other hydrometers around it.
And that's a very muddy signature. So there's nothing conclusive on that at this point. Nothing's co-located with the rotation. Those little yellow spots are very noisy. You need to see kind of a succinct, round sort of.
We would be seeing
ball
it in this general area if it were there.
right there. Yeah. By the way, Oldham County now popping up to like 2,000 people without power. There's a new severe thunderstorm warning that's popping on. Don't think it touches any of our counties. It does. Okay. Yes, it does. And here it comes on your screen. Ta-da. That's a big one.
Yeah, it covers most of our
That'll do
counties.
it. That'll do it.
Yeah, this is Grayson, Hardin, Meade, and Nelson counties. Weather radio's going off 1 a.m. Central Time, so that's going to be 2 a.m. where we have this storm. We were talking about not having severe along that line for quite some time. We were sort of gapped by severe to the north. Again, this is moving into an environment that wasn't untouched, but the threat would be going down. The Weather Service has found credence in issuing this warning, even though lightning strikes have been diminishing. We've had no reports of damage that we're aware of out of the counties that this is moving through. But nonetheless, the Weather Service issuing the warnings, and we'll pass those along. So that's where we're at this point with severe thunderstorm warnings coming through. Louisville at this point is the only place that's gapped, and that storm is about out of here. So
we're getting
that's
lucky.
some good news on that.
Yeah.
We weren't so lucky earlier.
Yeah, so we paid our dues already here, so it's a good thing that we're not getting a twofer. But areas just south of Louisville likely going to see some of these 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts potentially. You see, of course, the update on that severe thunderstorm warning from Wavy there on the bottom of your screen. That's likely for the easternmost warning there that covers parts of Shelby and Oldham there, and that continues here for just a little bit longer, it looks like.
Can you see how much time is in that game? Can you see the score?
This is going to be unorthodox, but I'm going to have to walk up to the TV.
well, I didn't want you to have to do that. I was just curious. My eyes are not good enough to see.
2 minutes and 4 seconds, and they're in the fourth. So I'm
Okay.
assuming that's pretty close to being over.
Yeah. And the score doesn't look even close.
121 to 109. They just made a shot there.
All right. Well, the good news is by the time we have to interrupt, and it looks like that's probably going to be the case, this storm, we should be able to get the next 2 minutes in.
Yeah. The game should be over, hopefully. And I think this is the last game, if memory serves here, because I think.
Well, yeah, and if it's not, who's up at 1:30 watching the NBA?
In this market, especially, we're a college basketball market here, aren't we? At least that's what I thought. I don't know.
All right, you want to take a few questions, folks?
Yeah, let's take a few questions
We've
here.
got thousands of people watching. I'm sure there are questions.
1,300. In fact, we have more people watching now than I think we had watching earlier. It's funny, later at night, more people.
Well, and this is just on some of the social channels. Our apps, they bring in tens of thousands of folks watching. So sometimes we reach more people on our app than we do in the broadcast world nowadays.
Which is pretty amazing.
That's wild.
We've got Janetta says, wind and raining good here in Brooks, Kentucky. Louise is watching the game. She's up late watching the basketball game on Wave and NBC.
There you go, Louise. Well,
All
thank
right.
you for watching on the stream, too.
Well, William is up. He said the weather radio just went off for the severe thunderstorm with possible tornadoes Meade through E-Town. We can totally get that. Ashley says her windshield is already cracked, so she didn't want any more hail.
Yeah, no.
I get that. Been there, done that. Eric says Oldham County is nuts right now. I'm assuming because of the storms. Let's see. Travis here knows a little bit about meteorology, looking for wiggles near Shepherdsville. And are you talking about Wiggles on the Radar or the children's show from the late 90s, the Wiggles? But yeah, at this point, we're tracking some of those storms moving into your neck of the woods here, and looks like you're in pretty good shape, which is good. Angela's asking about lightning. Is the lightning count decreasing as time goes on? It is, but very, very slowly here. We're still picking up quite a few lightning strikes you see in this view here.
So what we like to do is measure it by the view. So I always zoom out to the home
There you
view.
go.
So you can see it's 675. It was at over 800 a while ago. So
Bingo.
it is coming down, and that's good news. That's the trend. And that's a good question that you ask, Angela, because you want to see that lightning count come down.
When's it okay to go to bed in Louisville? Right now. we're in good shape. These storms are pretty much through the metro, the leading edge of them where the problems would be. Whenever you're on the leading edge, that's where issues can be with wind and tornadoes and such. That is now just south of most of Louisville. So
you've got heavy rain falling across a good chunk of metro Louisville, but that will be easing, and the threat of any severe weather is diminishing, as Ryan mentioned.
Mandolin says, guys, can an educated adult please answer my question? Is Meade getting anything severe?
Well, let us phone a friend. We don't have a clue.
I don't see educated adults in here anywhere.
What kind of question is that?
Good grief. We can't get to everybody's question. I know it's frustrating. You feel like you're speaking into the void here, but we get literally hundreds of
I'm going to answer her question just so she doesn't think we're complete idiots.
Oh.
So where was the location? Meade.
Meade.
Yeah, all of Meade.
Just Meade. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at this point, the only issue with Meade would be the southern from Irvington down toward Grampton. But anywhere north of there, including Brandenburg, while it's heavy rain, there is no threat of anything other than heavy rain.
Orland says strong thunder in Charlestown, Indiana. It's probably still loud up there. Even though the core of the storm has passed, this thunder can travel a pretty long distance, up to 10 miles.
Yeah, and some decent lightning coming through the Louisville area. Turn the lightning counter back on. Again, heaviest concentration of lightning southwest Jefferson County, and then down toward Fern Creek, moving into northeast Bullitt County near Mount Washington.
Mackenzie's at SDF. She says a lot of lightning at SDF right now. No surprise. The basketball game just ended. They're in post-game interviews, so thank goodness we don't have to worry about that with this mess that's trying to move toward Grayson County here.
We'll go back to the home view so we can see that.
Let's see how we're doing there. Yeah, it's still cracking. Okay.
And let's look at the velocity on that. So we've been taking on this little radar tour. Couple things to point out on this. This is why reading a radar is so fun, because it's always different and it's always changing. Our radar, again, there's one little notch here inward. That's one area that we would pick out on this. Others would be watching this storm behind you. You can see how that storm's kind of curled in behind it. And when we look at the velocity here in a second, this will be the area that we see the greatest potential with. This is a wind maker. This would be the rotation. Let's look at the velocity, and there you see it. So that's what you'd want to, that's what you would assume you would see looking at the velocity. So we're still seeing a pretty good couplet there that's moving past Livermore, making its way toward Beta, and that's going to move just north of Beaver Dam and approach Horse Branch. Once we get over here, this is our county line. This is Grayson County. This is Breckenridge County. Should stay south of Breck County, but if it kept that movement, it would likely move into Grayson County. So that's what we're watching.
Landon keeps asking us if we can pull up the coverage from WFIE in Evansville for the storm.
Well, let's see. Well, I don't know.
That's starting to get a little closer to our market here.
Yeah, I don't know if they're covering it or not. We can try. We've been watching Jonesboro. I'm just going to zoom out on the radar so you can see. Oh, we got a number of tornado warnings down into Tennessee, too. So those are down toward Darden and farther south of Nashville.
Nash Vegas.
So these are the only, let me just put on the watches and warnings. Looking across the country, the only tornado warnings we have are the ones in Tennessee and the one in Kentucky that we have. So again, the weakening trend gradually happening. That's important to note. And that's what we've been talking about. We said after 11 o'clock, things would start to die down slowly. It's not a switch, so it's not something that we can just turn off. But the good news is that it is slowly weakening. Now, they did issue this large warning, which I'm still a little uncertain about, but it's there, so we're passing that along. And it looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning, probably on the backside of that tornado warning where we saw that other radar feature. Let me put the radar back on. I think I can explain this as we look in just a little closer. So they've issued the severe thunderstorm warning on the back edge of this storm. And that's going to be for this area here. And that's covered by the severe thunderstorm warning. So again, that's a wind maker. We pointed that out a while ago. The only couplet, the only wind issue in terms of possible tornado would be that right there, passing over Livermore.
And we've got WFIE. They are also tracking that exact same storm here. You can see they're on the air. There's Jeff Lyons.
Let me turn him up.
Steam as it moves to the southeast. We are now just starting to get some rain and stronger thunderstorms into Madisonville, Nebo, and in the
Jeff Lyons has
Charleston.
been over
I
Channel
did wanna show the
14. This is our
lightning,
sister
too,
station
because
out of
that's often a
Evansville.
proxy for the
He's
intensity
been there many,
of the
many
storms. And
years.
you'll notice here, as the lightning strikes populate on the map, that we have had quite a bit of activity here, electrical, meaning these storms have intensified again. If you recall, an hour or so ago, there wasn't much lightning or as much when those storms came across southwest Indiana. But
So that's
now we are
interesting that
back,
he's noting that there's been an
into,
uptick in our
stronger
viewing area.
thunderstorms, too.
Maybe
I'm
that
gonna
one
check for
particular area is
reports. The
uptick,
only
but in
problem
general, the
here
lightning
is
counts
that,
come
we're
down.
going to have a
So
lot
Yeah,
of stuff
that one
was in
Southwest
there
Indiana
from
segment.
earlier. I believe that's a new one now, that wind damage report, and that is in Spotsville, a tree down across the road. I don't know if Michael had that a moment ago or not, but that's one of the newer reports that have come in. We'll check these hail reports, although I think these were from earlier today. They were, so we'll drop out of those and go back to the radar itself. And our warning, by the way, our tornado warning that was in effect there in McLean County has been pared back. So that is a good sign, at least that the storm is not producing a tornado anymore there around Calhoun. But we're still seeing that same kind of bulge or a little notch here at the bottom.
You can
of
see
that
Wavy's
storm.
giving
So
the
it
same
has not
update for
really
the
weakened
storm
a
that
whole
Jeff
lot.
is
Michael's
tracking there.
gonna
That's
hone in on
Ohio County, and that warning is
velocity
until
there, a little tighter
12:45.
than I can
So we
do
still
over
have
here at the
about
big screen.
35 minutes
We're
or
trying to give you just the big
what,
picture.
20
Michael
minutes
was
left
mentioning
on that.
earlier some of the cities and towns. Let's give you some specifics now on that timing. So if we do a track again from where that formation is or where that signature is on the
There's a new severe
radar,
thunderstorm warning
the
for us.
cities and towns are
And
gonna be
let's jump
familiar,
over to that just
but
a
the
second so we can talk about that. This one's going to extend across parts of Franklin County. Again, that's moving away from where we had the one severe thunderstorm warning passing Owen County, moving out of Henry County. So this is a very small part of Franklin County up toward Peaks Mill, and it also includes capital city Frankfort. And that warning is until 1:30. So that's a severe thunderstorm warning, not tornado, but severe thunderstorm warning, mainly for wind gust potential. And you can see some of those winds pushing through the Peaks Mill area, moving right into Frankfort even as we speak. So that's where we would have some of the stronger winds moving in. For our viewing area, this will be a very short-lived warning as it moves closer to Georgetown, Cynthiana, and places off to the north and east of where we are. All right, back to that storm, and let me show you where it is on our map. I'll put the radar back up. Let me take off the, there's that severe thunderstorm warning that we mentioned. And I'll zoom this back out. The storm we're watching, and the one that we're watching from our sister station, WFIE, that's channel 14 in Evansville, is the tornado warning over Ohio County. Why? Well, it butts right up against Grayson County. That's the county line right there. And you can see Short Creek, Rough River Lake area. There's Litchville. There's Caneyville. This is the Western Kentucky Parkway. So that area is the area we're watching, because if this were to get extended, and let me show you why it may get extended, we're still watching on that storm. Let me get it back to the Evansville radar where we can see it a little bit.
And we're picking up like 70-mile-per-hour winds on radar within that rotation. That is pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's not as defined in this last, well, it's still there pretty clearly, obviously. It's this right over, I don't know if that's Beta, B-A-D-A. That would be the area that we're watching. And it's moving at about 50 miles an hour to the east. So this is the area. It's not really lost its rotation since they've issued the warning. And that's been going on, what now, for 30 minutes.
It was like 1:04 a.m. that they issued that. So about 24 minutes, somewhere in there.
So that's the storm we're watching. We're not alone. Our sister station,
So that is going to put
WFIE.
it,
This is
just
Michael.
outside of the
He's
tri-state
teamed
here,
up with Jeff Lyons.
fairly soon, but it is going to intercept areas like Beta at around 12:26. So you've got 1 more minute to go. If you haven't headed into your safe place yet, you should be going down to that immediately. Hartford, you're a little bit on the southern edge of that. You may not take a direct hit from that best rotation couplet, but you are still within that cone. So you want to take it seriously and go down to your safe place. That's going to be moving through in about 5 minutes. Horton and around 10 minutes.
You have some outflow starting to jump out ahead of some of those storms southwest of the rotation. So hopefully
and that is good news because that will steal some of the energy.
Into
Let's hope
Grayson
it's just
County.
barely ahead, though.
Another
That's the problem.
20, 30 minutes or so as the storm progresses eastward, and then it'll eventually be out of the tri-state. So that is for that tornado warning specifically. Let me go ahead and check out storm relative velocity to bring that up for you. You could see still showing up fairly well right over Beta. So that is where we're seeing potentially the worst of this storm right now.
Peas and Mount
We
Washington.
can actually go back out to a little bit of a home view for you and show you where the rest of the warnings are taking place. We have seen power outages so far in Webster and Hopkins County. Nothing being reported out of McLean or Ohio County just yet, but our producers are keeping a close eye on that for us, and they kind of pop in our ears to give us those updates. So keep that in mind. We may see some power outages with this. We've also got some areas in Henderson that have some trees down over the highways, some areas of flooding as well. So if you are going to be out traveling overnight tonight or traversing the area just for curiosity, we recommend that you don't do that. But if you come across
for folks that may just be tuning in, this is our
the
sister
road,
station
power line.
WFIE. They're tracking the storm that we're watching that's going to be moving through their viewing area and into ours. They're over in Evansville. They're tracking this storm in Ohio County. We have it punched up as well. New severe thunderstorm warning coming out for our viewing area, and this is going to include parts of Grayson County. So may this be a precursor that they're going to go with a severe instead of a tornado, at least on the onset. There's still time for them to issue the tornado warning, but at this point, a severe thunderstorm warning for Butler, Grayson, and Ohio coming out until 1:15 their time. That's 2:15 Louisville time. Another 45 minutes on that warning. So that at least bears well for now that everyone within that range under a severe thunderstorm warning, that could be upgraded at least for a small part of that with the continuation of this couplet that we're tracking to be a tornado warning into Grayson County. So I wouldn't let my guard down on that just yet. That is something that I would keep an eye on as we track this off to the pretty much due east, slight jog to the south, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm tracking this from the Hopkinsville radar, which is just a touch closer, and the rotation has fallen out of it somewhat. It's not completely gone, but we are definitely seeing a weakening trend there. Still sampling about 66 mile per hour winds within the storm at this point, or really just outside of it. This may be environmental, believe it or not. So that's some good news too. That may actually not be within the storm sampling. So the overall weakening trend that we've been kind of alluding to, that does continue. Again, these bumps in the road like this right here, they're going to happen, but overall things are improving.
Our lightning count ticked up to what? 783.
So that segment has strengthened a little bit. Not shocking.
And let me just
Jefferson County now 3,900 customers without power.
And that's still a little down from where it was, right?
Yeah, that could be worse. Yeah, we were at 4,000 something not long ago, so it dipped down and then came back up again, basically. That's why that alert popped up here. So it came back up.
And it's clear where the greatest concentration of that lightning is, and that is far western parts of Kentucky, and then lower lightning counts farther to the north. Still impressive even across the Louisville area, though. So if the thunder and lightning are keeping you awake, we still have to deal with that for just a little bit longer. I'll zoom into the metro. You can see the heaviest of the rain moving across the southern half. Generally, if you're outside of the Watterson Expressway, you have the heavy rain falling, especially down toward Okolona Valley Station, J-Town, Middletown, arcing up into far western Shelby County. Fern Creek seeing the heaviest rain here in in Louisville. Yes, we do have the flash flood warning. That's in place for another 15 minutes across the area. Advisories may last even longer than that.
Yeah, turn around, don't drown. Don't mess with flooding at night. We have had already some cars submerged and water rescues take place in places like Seymour and Louisville. So this is not the time nor the place. Thankfully, a lot of people are asleep. And this flooding isn't to a level where we're evacuating people from their homes, which is good. The soil's been somewhat dry lately. That's helpful. But we just don't want you traveling out in this if you can help it. I know a lot of folks have to work third shift. You're getting up, you're getting going, you're watching our live stream. You're probably just opening up Facebook for the first time after your 1:30 alarm went off. Like, okay, well, now what's fresh heck do I have to deal with getting to work today? Well, these storms are now marching south of Louisville. If you're in Indiana, this is getting better very quickly. If you're near Litchfield and Grayson County, we're watching you the closest.
We've been at this since midnight, so we've been on about an hour and 34 minutes. We continue to track what's happening across the viewing area. We have a number of severe thunderstorm warnings. No tornado warnings yet. We had the one that we interrupted the NBA with, and that was for northern Jennings County. That was super quick. That was moving at like 65 miles an hour. It was a thin sliver, eastern part of the county, boom, in and out. Had no damage reports out of that we know of. We do have some power outages. We keep checking those. I'll go back to those for you.
And while you're bringing that up, Chase at the National Weather Service in Louisville says they are not as confident in the tornado signal in Ohio County as earlier. They're leaning toward not issuing a downstream tornado warning right now on that storm heading toward Grayson. Good news.
Yeah, good news for that. And again, we're looking at some of the power outages. Crawford looks like it may have gone up just a bit, 826 customers. Let's check Orange County. This includes Paoli, 1,673. Washington County coming in at 2,942. Good news is some of the southern Indiana counties that were hit so hard earlier
Better shape.
have made up some ground. So places like Jackson and Jennings County, at least down. I mean, they're still in the thousands up there, but coming down. So some good news. You can see where the storms have made their way through, where we have had warnings. And listen, I'm not into the game to second guess what other people are looking at, but we haven't had a lot of outages out of Meade County or Breckinridge County at this point. And that was an area where when we looked at the radar, these are some of the rain totals, and you can see those high rain totals to the north. We're adding to that south. This is what I wanted to get to, and that is when we looked at this earlier, we were gapped, meaning we had no warnings stretching from pretty much Carrollton down to Hardensburg. And then they filled in this warning, and I was a little uncertain why. Still not seeing any damage out of that.
Right.
So, and the signatures on the velocity, not all that impressive. So, thankfully, right?
We're picking up some 70-mile-per-hour winds intra-storm near like Irvington there from the Hopkinsville radar. But again, that's pretty high up. So I don't think that's making it to ground level. Nothing like that.
So, and the best news is what we just heard from the Weather Service is that this tornado warning storm is at this point passing beta, moving toward western parts of Grayson County, but likely going to just hold with a severe thunderstorm warning. Why on that? Because the rotation has broadened out. There's not that couplet. Tough to see on this radar. Now I'm going to move this so you can see it better. Why does that change? Well, we're switching radars. When I move that, that's the Louisville radar. When I move it there, that's the Evansville radar. So you can still see a broader couplet, but it's not as defined as it was on this radar in that general area there, not far from Dundee, but past Beta. But again, it's nothing like it was. So that's good news. Obviously, scan by scan, it has to be watched. And yes, there is still wind with that. But as far as the potential for a tornado, that threat seems to have decreased.
Yeah, and that's some good news there. Not picking up anything from any of the other radar sites either that would suggest that, we're seeing an increasing tornado threat. If anything, this part of the line is now starting to fall in step with the rest of the line to the north and showing that weakening trend here. We're getting ready to get some answers perhaps on what they're going to do with that segment of storm, whether it's going to be A tornado, not a tornado warning, obviously they're leaning against that, but whether that's going to be just the severe thunderstorm warning, if they're going to put a tornado possible tag on that, or what they're going to do with that exact segment here, waiting for an answer on that at this point. But you get the idea. I think we still have some severe thunderstorm warnings to go this evening, but in terms of tornado warnings, we may be able to escape without another one. It's going to be close, though. We'll see how it goes.
All of southern Indiana, you're in the clear to go to bed if you wish. You've got a little rain still lingering. Louisville, you're in the clear. Severe threat ending for Louisville. Working your way, Oldham County in the clear, Henry County, Carroll, Trimble County in the clear. Places not in the clear, areas along the parkways. All right. So southern parts of Breckenridge, Grayson, Hardin, Nelson, and Point South. So those areas not in the clear just yet.
NWS Louisville now confirming they do not plan to go downstream with a tornado warning at the moment. So there you go.
The severe thunderstorm watch that encompasses that tornado warning is in place until 2 a.m. That's Eastern time, 1 a.m. Central time. That includes Grayson, Hardin, Meade, Nelson counties. So some folks have already heard the weather radios going off, the Wave Weather app going off. Maybe they've tuned into the stream. They say, well, everybody's in tracking these storms. What's happening? For the most part, we've had a wind maker moving through. We've been keeping a very close eye on the tornado warning storm that had a tight couplet for quite some time, but now that's sort of broadened out. So the Weather Service has seen the same thing. They're not going to carry that on, but obviously they'll keep watching it, and so are we. Other areas seeing some wind, but much of this severe thunderstorm warning has gone without any type of damage.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. I think we're going to be able to continue that trend the way things are looking right now. And, these are just kind of big coverall severe thunderstorm warnings as a just in case, it seems, but there's no real signal of anything specific in them at this time. Really just making sure that we can get through the evening without having unwarned damage in places. And that seems to be what the strategy is with that. And again, that warning is until 1 o'clock in the morning, Central Daylight Time, which would be 2 a.m. Eastern Time. It's currently 1:39 on our clocks here at Wave.
Last check on our lightning count was over 800, I believe, and we're down to 7-something. Again, greatest concentration where you see the stronger storms, or we had the tornado warning storm. This is the corridor of heaviest lightning. We still have plenty of lightning, by the way, and a new tornado warning that's coming out now past the viewing area. So we're sort of bookended by tornado warning storms.
That was close. Yeah.
That is moving out of the area. Yeah, that is. That's extremely northern parts of Kentucky. So that would be in the Cincinnati viewing area, right in between Cincy and Lexington.
Counting our lucky stars tonight. You're not having any tornado warnings, but our two adjacent markets do. Sometimes that's just how it works out around here. And we certainly paid our dues with other tornado warnings earlier this evening. And there's Jeff Lyons, WFIE in Evansville.
All night to kind of clear out. But if we get some sunshine tomorrow, the thinking is we could be set up again for some strong to severe thunderstorms during the afternoon.
And that's something we should point out as well. He's talking about because the severe weather is winding down for his viewing area. This is our sister station over in Evansville, WFIE. Michael and Jeff leading their coverage tonight. But for tomorrow, we also have a chance here to see some of those thunderstorms develop later in the evening hours, mainly across Kentucky. And that would push off to the south. And again, it would probably be after 6 p.m., probably even in some cases after 8 p.m. And I would say along and south of the parkways hold the best chance for tomorrow.
Absolutely. Did have a report there of a little bit of flooding near Scottsburg, Indiana. Looks like that flash flood warning famously for Louisville here. What have they done here? They've extended that now to 3:45 Eastern time. So that's going to continue for a little bit longer. That's
even though the heaviest rain is out.
Yeah,
so.
they extend these just because, ongoing issues are happening, whether it be, flooding in creeks and ditches and gullies and whatnot here. So that's the reason they do that. 1 inch tree limbs broke in Scottsburg, Indiana. That's a little delayed from earlier, most likely.
Back to our radar view here, and we'll try to look in maybe Cincinnati to get the others. Our sister station up there is Fox 19. We can show you their coverage of that storm that's moving just south of the Covington area. It doesn't look all that impressive on the radar. The good news is for us, we're able to clear a lot of folks out of any issues in terms of wind or tornadic potential. I'm trying to see if there's anyone new. Not yet. So we're keeping folks generally along the parkways at this point. Still the potential across southern Breckenridge, Grayson, Hardin, LaRue, Hart, Greene, Taylor, Adair, Marion, Nelson, Washington. If you're in any of those counties I just mentioned, there's still a chance, though it's, again, hour by hour, minute by minute, going to get less and less of a chance. But there's still a chance for some strong winds. Threat of tornadoes, very minimal at this point, but obviously we've got 2 tornado warnings on the screen, bookending our viewing area, so we can't rule it completely out. But even in those areas, the odds of those being actual tornadoes, very low.
Yeah, it doesn't look
It
like
looked much better earlier in the evening.
let's see, trees down in Carroll County. It's going to be at the 2300 block of US 42, right there along the Ohio River.
And again, that was part of that same storm that moved through where we see that tornado warning moving toward Antioch at this point, just north of Barry. Let's put on the velocity, just see if we see the couplet at all. Nope. Looks like a wind, pretty much a straight line wind deal. And back to the reflectivity. No, it's fading out too. So that's outside of the viewing area, but even that one's not impressive any longer. I didn't look at it earlier so much. It's out of our area, but it did cause a few problems. Just like we had earlier, a few problems with some of that wind over northeast Jefferson County. What time was that? 7:30 we got the call. 7:30, there were some trees down. So we have had some power outages in Jefferson County, but that was from earlier storms, not the ones late tonight. Again, we're just tracking storms for folks that are up with us tonight. We're going to keep an eye on the radar. The good news is things are easing as each moment passes, and that as these storms push to the south and east, we've walked you through all of it. This warning will expire, and the tornado warning will fall off here within the next 30 seconds. It was over the Beta area, moving right up against the county line of Grayson County. If it had triggered into Grayson, we would have had to have jumped on. But at this point, because no tornado warning is out, we've just decided to stay on the stream and let the programming air on WAVE and NBC, which happened to be the ball game. And now we're into the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And again, we're coming up probably less than 10 seconds. I'm almost going to count it down, and you'll see that drop off. It's kind of exciting, isn't it?
Kind of think so.
Are you asleep? Are you still awake over there?
I'm barely hanging on, right?
There, it's gone.
Hey, no more
Boom,
tornado.
like magic. Washa. It's gone.
Yes, that's fantastic. All right.
All right. Well, I see we've got Chris Bailey, our fine friend and colleague over in Lexington. This comes to us from our sister station, KYT, over in Lexington. He's tracking that tornado warning.
Is losing some of its spin. That's a good thing. We'll keep an eye on that, obviously. Individual showers, thunderstorms that are going up ahead of that main line. We'll keep an eye on that. What looks to be happening, though, as we go through the next few hours is that we see these thunderstorms that are going up ahead of that main line. All of that just tries to come together into a massive complex of showers and thunderstorms, and may have some embedded severe weather within that. But overall, I think that will.
So again, if you're wondering why we're showing Chris Bailey, the CBS station over in Lexington, it happens to be owned by our same parent company, Gray Media. That's why we were showing you Jeff Lyons over in Evansville. We're all colleagues. We work together, especially across the state of Kentucky, because we've got stations in Hazard, we've got stations in Lexington, Cincinnati, here in Louisville, obviously. Evansville with Jeff Lyons and his team, Jonesboro, Arkansas. Where else? I'm trying to think. WSAZ over in Huntington, West Virginia. All of those are just so close. Nashville, WSMV, all our parent company stations, and we can tap into them at any point. Oftentimes we offer assistance, and so do they when we're in big weather events. And that's especially true in hurricanes.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's great to have the power of gray media here with all of our affiliates along the coast in a situation like that. Got a funny question from Angela Reed on YouTube. Why isn't there any news on TV? Not everybody has YouTube or Facebook. We do go on TV when the threat allows for it, but the threat is not high enough for us to be on TV tonight.
We did break in for a
Oh, yeah.
period of time. They've gone off of their coverage, so we'll bounce off of their coverage
But
as
just
well.
not right now do we need to be on TV. This is more for public information rather than, protecting life and property here, what we're doing for our viewing area at this time. If it ever becomes a tornado warning, then we go on TV.
Well, that's the great part about it. I mean, Heather, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a tornado warning. If there were 70-mile-per-hour winds coming through the city, we would jump on, let people know. But at this point, it's just run-of-the-mill severe thunderstorm warnings. There have been no damage out of what we're watching. We're here watching it, so we're like, well, if we're going to be watching it, let's just put it on our stream, and that's where we're at here. So that's why you're seeing it on the weather stream. Our 24/7 weather channel called Wave Weather Now is a great resource. We always have weather information there. Oftentimes we're on it live, but there are times where, much like tonight, we're not on the main channel, but we're going to be on all of our other digital assets. We have so many places we can be. We don't always have to be on them all. So that allows people to watch, the NBA, the Tonight Show, unless there is a tornado warning, and then we have to break in. And that's what you saw earlier if you were watching Wave and NBC. So that warning has been sort of scaled back as well. And you can see Grayson, Hardin, Meade, Nelson, they're going to hold on to that until 2 a.m. That's another 12 minutes left on that warning. Once that expires, and I fully expect that to expire.
And that'll be at the top of the hour at 2 a.m.
Yes. The other one to the south, how long does that one go? That one clips parts, and that one's until 2:15 a.m. So, well, we're in at least parts of the viewing area until 2:15 with warnings. We'll see if they extend that. At this point, there's been no damage. I can't imagine that they would, but we'll see what happens.
Here's an update from the National Weather Service here in Louisville. 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts have been observed with this section that's currently under the warnings in Western Kentucky here.
Yeah, that's not severe.
Nope, only a handful of power outages. For the next 1 to 2 hours, the corridor from Ohio and Grayson County to points south and east would be the area we're going to watch closely. Also, northern Bluegrass, Harrison, and Nicholas County outside of our viewing area, where we have a more north-south oriented line there. That was the warning that you see there east of our viewing area. So basically,
Sounds like Rainmaker.
Right. The squall line has become outflow dominant in some sections. And that's what we were talking about. Hey, outflow is starting to jump ahead. And that becomes a situation where you start to lose the gusto in the storms very quickly. And, your winds come down, your hail comes down, your tornado threat pretty much evaporates. That's where we're at right now. We're on the tail end of this very long night of severe weather coverage for us here.
We still have a chance tomorrow to see a few storms, mainly to our south, as we've mentioned. So we'll watch that again tomorrow. But once we get this out of here, the first 2 days of the week, we're in for a much more pleasant middle and probably even the latter part of the week. We still have minor rain chances that come in real early Wednesday morning, but the daytime will be dry. Thursday looks dry. Friday, we've got that boundary. That's still a question mark exactly how that plays out. But that front gets close enough to us where it could spark a few rain showers. I hope they're quick hitting. I hope they're very light. We're going to keep that 30% chance in for now. We'll revisit the data that's coming in overnight tonight, again early tomorrow morning, make our changes. But right now, we've got a 30% rain chance in on Oaks Day, and hopefully we can just completely obliterate the rain chance that we have in there on Derby Day. At this point, that's only 20%.
It'd be nice if we could get rid of it. Don't want to have to update hourly precipitation chances for Derby Day. That's always a chore to do, but
Yes.
we do it when we have to.
Which seems a lot recently, right?
Yes, I've had many a session there at Churchill Downs having to sit down and update those. It's oh so fun. 30% of Carroll County now without power. That's 1,800 customers. Pretty significant power outage for our friends up 42 and I-71 there, northeast of Louisville.
The Weather Service chiming in on a stronger wind signal that would come in through some of the high-resolution modeling across the Bluegrass region. And you see that warning coming out. This is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they're saying that in this region, which includes parts of our viewing area, namely Washington County, north of Springfield, but including Willisburg. That's the only part that would be in our viewing area, so that's not going to last long, mainly extending over toward Harrodsburg and Nicholasville, that there would be a decent chance for some wind damage within that zone over the course of the next, I don't think my watch may have died, over the course of the next hour. So that's why that severe thunderstorm warning will go until 2:15, so next half hour.
And that will likely get trimmed back once those storms leave Washington County there. So they redraw the polygon halfway through the warning. That's mostly what's going to happen once that clears Willisburg.
And we can look at the velocity on that just to see if we see anything. And there is a little
there's
push.
something.
Anytime you see those oranges,
Yeah, that's
that can be a decent push of
Yep.
wind. So we do have some decent wind. I'll keep it on that and just kind of
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good warning seeing that there. In fact, if I can sample it here on my iPad, and the sample in there is 72 mile per hour winds aloft with this. So that's enough to certainly get a warning out of it. You could channel some of that down to the ground. How about 74? There we go. 74 mile per hour winds I'm sampling. So
I just did the same. So
that's pretty good. Yep. That's enough to get you in trouble.
Right over
there.
Tatum Springs. Strong winds there. So that moved out of northeast Nelson County, moving into northern parts of Washington. Some pretty strong winds aloft. Now, whether we're actually seeing those mix down to the ground or not, a couple of ways that can happen. The most obvious way with this is to have the heavy rain pull it down. So when we look at where the strongest wind field is seen by the radar, that's this zone. I'm going to circle it. Tough to see on the same color, I know. And then if I put on the precipitation, what we're looking at to see if we have any heavy precip in that same area. And there's enough. The heaviest is displaced a little bit farther to the north and east. But in that zone, there's still enough that if you saw a pocket of heavy rain, it could pull some of those strong winds down to the surface. So probably not that strong, meaning not 70 miles an hour, but maybe you've got some 30 to 40 mile per hour gust with the potential for it to go higher. And that's the reason behind that warning that came out for northern parts of Washington County and stretches over into Anderson, Jessamine, and Mercer.
All right. We need to clear some folks.
You scared me. I thought we were getting ready to launch into tornado warning.
No, we're getting ready to launch into some good news. All right. Folks are getting cranky in the chat.
Are they cranky?
They're cranky. They're cranky because they want to know if their county is clear or not. They're like, hey, do a round robin of what counties are clear, what counties are still on alert here.
All right.
So
well, we just did that, but we'll do it again.
Well, they're getting cranky and antsy and
and hungry, probably.
and probably hungry like I was earlier tonight.
All right. Well, let's roll through it. So it's easier for us to tell you the counties that still have the threat because there are fewer of those.
Bingo.
So I'm going to start by saying, and this is going to seem obvious, but if you're in, let's just say Washington, Nelson, Marion, Greene, Taylor, Adair, LaRue, Hardin, Grayson, and Hart. Those are the counties that still have the potential. Everybody else, go to bed. You're in good shape.
It's
Still
not
raining.
easy.
You might still see some lightning. You're probably still going to hear a little bit of thunder if you're near this line. But if you're not in a county that I mentioned, should I go through them again? Yes.
Sure, why not?
So Grayson, Hardin, LaRue, Hart, Greene, Taylor, Adair, Nelson, Marion, Washington. For the most part, along and south of the parkways.
Pretty easy, right? At least we hope so.
Everybody else, you're in good shape. We still have heavy rain falling from Franklin, Spencer, Shelby, Nelson, Bullitt, northern Hardin, southern Meade, Breckenridge, northern Grayson. Still have very heavy rain falling there, but threats of severe weather for most of those areas I just mentioned along that heavy rain line, severe weather, not too big of a concern.
Now, Alex is saying, hey, I was thinking about going to sleep and then I just heard LaRue County called out, so never mind. Here's the deal. You can go to sleep if you have a NOAA weather radio in alert mode. It is that easy. Just make sure that thing is on and set up for your county. And it'll wake you up if you need to be woken up. So we have the technology, and we've had that for 25 years now, that same code technology, so that you can put your county in there and let it ride, and it'll do what it needs to do to keep you awake during tornado warnings.
Those are the current warnings that we have. I'll just put the warnings on a second so you can see. The tornado warning that you see on your screen is out of our viewing area. Lexington's covering that. Our friend over at KYT, that's Chris Bailey. He's got information on that. He's been covering that for the last few minutes.
Notice there's a small break in the warnings from Versailles and Lexington, and then all of a sudden those warnings kick back into high gear.
Gap
because you got
two.
the
That's kind of
bow
amazing.
Up here, you got a little bit of a bow to our south and southwest as well. Now, sandwiched in between, wouldn't be surprised we don't pop a warning here across Fayette County coming up shortly as this tries to connect. But we're watching.
You can
this
see that
damaging
Boeing
wind
segment to the north.
signature
That's a
that is
big
showing
push of
up here
wind.
out of Harrison County that is rolling into the northern part of Bourbon County and right on top of Carlisle here into Nicholas counties. Tornado warning continues in effect here for us.
And that's where they have that more north to south orientation of that storm. Again, the backward C shape of that shows the push of wind. So that's a heavy push of wind.
Storm warning, though, placed downstream toward Maysville into Mason.
Did we take care of all the cranky people?
I think so. They're not cranky anymore. They must have all gone to bed.
well, we haven't dropped that much on the count, so I was making sure they had what they needed.
Yeah.
You got to feed the cranky people. I can be one of them. I know.
Really?
You probably didn't know that. What do I
no
need?
idea.
If I'm cranky, what makes it change immediately?
Ice cream.
You know it.
I didn't even hesitate.
That is so true.
I've known this guy for too long.
All I need is a Klondike bar, and I am golden.
What would you do?
For a Klondike bar.
Do.
Well, we're just babysitting at this point. And we're not babysitting
people
Chris.
or the
We're not
storm?
Chris Bailey. We're just babysitting him. Our little coworker over in Lexington. He's working hard because he's got a tornado warning, and we're just watching. We have no tornado warnings. We do have severe thunderstorm warnings, but at this point, we've had no reports of damage across any of them, and that is the best news. So I suspect that once 2 o'clock rolls around, which is less than a minute away,
45 seconds.
we're going to see this big polygon fade away, and I doubt that we're going to see any injured. Come on in here to look at this. Look at this.
Hi.
Hi. So, the hair's wrapped up.
You don't want to be on TV.
That's up to you.
No, it's fine.
Are you sure?
Well, we're just tracking storms. Tawana Andrew, everybody. Hang on. You got to get in here.
Hold on.
I never see you very often because we're like ships crossing in the night.
I just heard you singing, so I came by.
Oh.
We never know what you're going to get at
We
midnight.
woke you up
Or
with
2
our
a.m.
singing then, didn't we?
I love the earrings. though.
Thank
The 502.
you.
amazing.
Yeah, these are handmade by CT Collections 502. So
They're
in
gorgeous.
Louisville. And I'm wearing her earrings for the next couple of days.
Oh, how
so they're all
fun.
Louisville made, and
I love
they're
that.
fantastic. Yeah, she's fantastic. Shout out to Carol.
Now, you were out at the track this morning, or you'll be out at the track this
Mhm.
morning. So
I'm wearing my good sturdy boots that are not going to be dirty by mud. So I'm ready to go.
yeah.
As long as this behaves, which
Well-
looks like it will. So it looks like everything's fading down.
Yeah, we got a new
Knock
severe
on wood.
thunderstorm warning there for this is Breckenridge, Hardin, Hart, and LaRue, and that goes until 1:45 Central.
That
Yes.
was for the
So
wind
2:45.
and tornado possible.
Yeah, that's got a tour possible tag on it. So
All right. Well, I know you've got things to get together on your show.
Yes,
So, and what are
I'm
you drinking? Coffee or tea?
I'm about to go make a cup of coffee.
Oh, have you seen the new coffee maker?
I know.
it
I'm
is.
not that fancy.
it's
I'm just gonna
amazing.
go use the Keurig.
Wait, you could literally have a cappuccino and you're going to use the Keurig machine.
Yes.
See, that
Because
sounds-
so too much caffeine makes me jittery.
Oh, okay, fair. I've
and
been
we
there
don't
before.
want that.
Yeah, if I have a full mocha with like full espresso in it, I turn into a mess. So I
Well,
totally
Keurig is
understand.
pushing it.
I'm not a coffee person, but I did drink some the other day just because I was that tired.
Yeah, no,
So-
we don't want me to be shaking on television. Not
Shake and
like
bake.
the jittery shaking on the.
Maybe the dancing, but not the shaking. I got
Exactly.
it. All right.
Exactly.
Well,
It'll all be amazing.
Well, thank you.
Continue to be amazing.
we'll
Well,
do our
thank you.
best.
Yes.
We've been aiming for that for a long, long time.
Also,
We haven't
We'll have
achieved
to-
it.
You need to show off your shots.
Oh, my lightning socks? Oh, I forgot I was wearing those. I put those on like 14 hours ago.
Days ago.
What day is it? Who am I?
So they did extend that, and I see why, because
Yeah.
it's bowing out a little bit. So I guess the intent is that maybe there would be a push of wind in that bowing. Remember, we were talking about those storms farther to the north and east that Bailey was tracking. This would be also the potential where we could start to see that bow out a little bit if that takes place. I mean, I've sort of extended this north area up toward Axtell and Rough River Lake. That's really not there at this point. But if we were to see that continue to bow a little bit, we could see the potential for the wind. So that's why that's been extended. It's for this area here as it moves off to the east. Again, moving at roughly 45 to 50 miles an hour. Yes, 50.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's moving east at 50.
That be it.
So again, we're watching any area along this line. The larger polygon expired right at 2 o'clock. This one was reissued mainly because they have it bowing out now just a bit. So oftentimes when we have a line like this, we get the interactions. It's sort of bumper cars, right? Sometimes they're individual sails bumping into each other. Sometimes it's part of a line where it's speeding up in parts of it, but not the other. So you start to curve it a little bit. That obviously can cause some issues. And it's really where we see the areas where this line is bent that we have the strongest wind potential. And part of that would be now moving across parts of Grayson County. So I don't disagree with that placement.
Yeah, and this was a zone, we pointed out a long time ago that was going to be sort of our sweet spot for having the potential for some issues here for the latter part of the evening. And indeed, that's what we're seeing happen is this Boeing segment now traverses Grayson County. So that's why the warning was issued, and that's why we're at where we're at.
Many areas, again, in the clear, out of the woods, areas along and south of the parkways are the only ones that need to be concerned at this point for any type of severe weather. And the bulk of those would be across Grayson, southern Hardin, and northern Hart counties. And we'll see if this continues farther to the east. But at this point, those are the ones that stand the greatest potential for any wind threat. And it is just a wind threat, even though that says tornado possible. They put that in there just because we don't know what the evolution of this looks like as it continues to develop over the course of time.
It is also in a spot that does have some untapped energy. So you never know what's going to kind of get ingested into the storm and try to make it spin up a little bit. Again, we don't expect any sort of major tornado problems tonight. We think those problems are 99.9% behind us. It's the 0.1% that we're here for.
Yeah, and we've been on for 2 hours now tracking this. We've had a series of tornado warnings. There was one for northern and far eastern parts of Jennings County earlier. And then we had the ones just butting up to parts of Grayson County. Did not carry over into Grayson County. That became a severe thunderstorm warning. But we have had at least some close calls with tornado warnings. But on a day like today, you don't even have to have the tornado warnings. We've had wind damage. We've got thousands of people across the viewing area without power. And that's just due to straight line winds in most of those cases. We've had some large hail earlier today, northern parts of the viewing area, parts of Du Bois County, parts of Lawrence County, upwards of quarter size hail. That's 1 inch in diameter hail. So we've had some issues.
Yeah. And of course, we had a home that was, destroyed up in Jackson County. Barns were flattened. That was very, very serious damage up there. So, we didn't expect this to be any sort of generational severe weather event. We expected this to be kind of whatever was left over from what was moving in from our west today. And that's kind of indeed what happened. The fly in the ointment was the storms cold pooling early in the afternoon and starting to trend toward the Ohio River. We didn't expect it to go that far south, and that kind of made the evolution of this kind of lopsided, but nonetheless, we're getting through this at about the right time. This will be completely finished by 4 a.m. Eastern here. We're at 2:06 a.m. currently. And that's pretty much once it gets south of the tip of Adair County at 4 a.m. when we'll be able to give everybody the all clear. Basically, if you're, in Bullitt County or north, you're done, you're fine. Basically, anywhere south of the parkways, that's where we're still monitoring for a few issues throughout the next 90 to 120 minutes here.
I'm trying to get this thing to move back. I feel like it's in my face. All right. Any other questions from folks?
Let's see what we've got here. Can we show the Bardstown Court Square? Well, yes, we can. We can do that because I have a nifty new thing that allows us to summon any SkyTrack camera. It's like a magic trick from just loading a graphic.
Lots of magic tricks going on around here today.
We like magic tricks, don't we? If I can, there it is. And we can even put the weather conditions, there it is, on there too. It may take just a minute. This may sit in black for a sec as it loads the live stream, but we can now summon these. There it is. Ta-da! And there is Bardstown currently.
Raining, but not too windy.
No,
I'm
not
looking
bad
to
at all.
see if it's actually moving. Seems like there would be a little bit
Yep,
of wind.
I do see it. It's moving.
You do?
It's alive. Yep. It's just quiet. Yeah, look at the American flag.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We have an American flag almost in every SkyTrack camera shot.
That's not by design. That's by luck.
Yeah, it really was.
That's kind of cool that
I mean, we can
happens.
move all of the
Yeah.
cameras.
And we need those flags because they tell us how the wind is.
Oh, basement flooding. Bad news.
Lawrenceburg,
I hate
Indiana.
flooding.
Yeah, flooding's no fun. So anyway, there's your Bardstown shot for whomever was asking for that there. We'll go back to the radar here and we'll answer some more questions. Let's see.
And while you're doing that, I'm just going to push up Chris Bailey, who's tracking that tornado warning. just
Pea-size hail
outside
in
of our viewing
Litchfield,
area.
by the way. Litchfield pea-size hail.
Through here. So I mentioned how they're going to start to pick up that forward momentum. They're going to pick up the forward speed very, very quickly.
He was just touching
Hey,
on north of
you know what?
Lexington
It's
where they
on
have
us,
the
and
tornado
in about
warning,
15 minutes, it's gone.
and that is
The
still
worst of it is
there.
Out of here. Well, watch this. This is the area where we're likely getting in on some damaging
I
winds
think your arm
as
is
of right
hitting
now.
his
That is
face bar
heading
constantly.
out of
The graphics
southern
went nuts.
parts of Woodford
Oh.
County
I didn't even
and
know.
right toward the city of Nicholasville.
I heard the noise in my
Yeah.
ear. I was
So
like,
out
what
of
the?
I looked
Nunsuch
down and
area here
realized
in
that
Woodford County,
space bar was
heading
depressed.
toward Wilmore, heading toward Nicholasville, and
And so am I. No, I'm
eventually
just kidding.
folks here into Madison County and the Richmond area. We're going to have to deal
This is
with
outside of our area, but we are keeping an eye on all of our sister stations across the Commonwealth and areas that surround us that have tornado warnings going on. I think this may be the only, as we come back to our radar here, this may be the only tornado warning. No, there's one more. Northern parts of Arkansas into the Memphis area, Jonesboro, in fact. So,
Again,
yeah, we were looking at that storm earlier.
that DMA is getting it tonight.
And we can show you what they're doing there, too. Ryan Vaughn's probably leading the charge with his team in Jonesboro. So the thunderstorm watch for Louisville has just been canceled. So another precursor just to say, hey, go to bed if you're in the Louisville. If you are in Louisville. If you're south of us, you still have the storms that we're watching. Good news is it's not bowing out. Well, still there, but not as much. Litchfield should be seeing some pretty good wind. I'm going to put the velocity up for you. Still pretty good little wind coming into Litchfield. This will be an area we watch. Will we see that tighten up any in terms of a couplet? We're sort of seeing the intersection of what's going on here versus what's coming out here. That would be an area to watch. It's right along the Western Kentucky Parkway. It's right over Litchfield. That's something we'll be watching. That's a zone that we've got our eyes on, okay? So,
Hopefully that flattens out. That's, if you look at the radar over the last hour, that's kind of the trend, but we can't say that for sure.
yeah,
yet.
I could see it going either way at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So let's give it some time to cook.
But that's a zone of concern, all right? Elsewhere, if you're in E-Town, you've got the heavy rain. Southern Hardin County still has the chance to see some strong wind. Same with LaRue County. Southern Nelson County, haven't seen a whole lot. You're probably in a good shape. And then areas north, certainly, you're finished.
I want to get to this Jonesboro, Arkansas coverage. They have some hellacious lightning on this Arkansas Department of Transportation camera there, I should say.
You're listening to Ryan Vaughn coming in here.
Really gusty winds and something fly by the camera.
Well, you never want to see something fly by the camera.
Mercy.
It's enough where I want to go back and look at it one day.
Yeah.
Well, the lightning is
Lot of
crazy.
lightning.
You're right about that.
Insane.
And look at those waves of
Heavy
rain.
coming through right now. Still west to east.
Look at the sheets of rain
At
on
the
road
very
there.
minimum, we've got a severe storm passing.
They
through
still
right now.
have
Is that-
power.
is that,
That's one thing that we
Central
often
Ford
look
right
for.
there.
I believe so.
Okay. You know, the power lines are still up there. The power is still up there. So that's a good sign.
It may have just been a
Wave of
shaft
rain.
of rain come across. But that was weird.
That was weird.
Well, weird sometimes happens.
The other voice you're hearing, by the way, I think is Aaron Castleberry, who I went to college with, Mississippi State.
The Stone County Sheriff's Office, they did
Yeah,
post
for sure.
an update on Facebook. Like I said, no injuries. There have been some power lines down, blocking roadways, damaged homes and vehicles.
That's funny. You went to school with Aaron, who
storm
we're watching
travel-
now, and
this
I
is
went to
where
school
they're
with
saying
Steve
that storm
Templeton out of
traveled
MOD
through.
St. Louis.
Heavy concentration of
watching
damage
earlier.
and destruction in the Dodd Mountain, Luber, Pleasant Grove, and Hanover areas of Stone
So they
County.
do have damage.
Yeah.
Crews are out there working to clear roads of fallen utility lines and trees. They're asking motorists to stay and just asking people to use caution, but also stay out of that area. So some pretty extensive damage in southern parts of Stone County
And this is out
from
of
that tornado a
Jonesboro,
little bit earlier
Arkansas.
this evening.
Thank goodness, no.
Well, they're really working
injuries or
those
fatalities.
Arkansas
All
Department
right,
of
let's go back to
Transportation
radar.
cameras. I know this
That's
TV
rough and
station
Truman.
doesn't
Still a lot
have
of
the
lightning
capability
out
to move
there.
those,
We're
but
looking
the
good. Here's something
department
else to know.
does.
So we're hearing it here. The rain is south of Jonesboro, but look, all these lightning strikes are still back behind this, just in the stratiform clouds. See all this? We got lightning all the way in Greene County from the storms there. So that's pretty wild. We're hearing the rumbles here also.
You're watching our sister station, KAIT.
All right, so how much
That's
longer
out
we
of
on this
Jonesboro,
morning?
Arkansas.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
They're not going to extend it.
Doesn't look like
So
it.
they're working
Well,
with
this-
that warning that sits just
I
off to
see
the
an
south
outflow
of
south of that
Jonesboro.
now, so it's
They're saying
definitely gone.
2 minutes
So I'll
left on
tell you
that
what,
warning, and then they're going
we
to
are
hang it
going
up too.
to go back to regular programming.
So as they do
and
that, we'll
hopefully-
come back to our radar and show you the storm we're watching. This also is limited in time. We've got this going out till 2:45. So right now it's about another half hour on that. The concerning part about this is we still see this notch. The velocity still shows the ability for that to continue. So some strong winds likely passing on the Western Kentucky Parkway just off to the east of the Litchfield area. And that's going to make its movement over toward Millerstown.
I am not a big fan of the latest scan on velocity just south of Clarkson. It is co-located with that notch.
Well, that's what we're watching here.
Yeah, that's not my favorite thing in the world right there. We need to watch that pretty closely.
So that's the one area, and there was Clarkson that just popped on.
Yeah, there it is.
So is it just off to the east of Litchfield? That's what we were talking about. And that we've said this for the last 10 minutes. This is the storm of concern.
Yep.
We have to just keep watching it. This is what we mean by what we do when we're babysitting storms. Sometimes you don't always see us on the stream doing this. We're usually back in our weather office where the chairs are a little more comfortable, I'll add.
If you see me shifting, it's because this is literally cutting into my pants. I feel like
This thing
it's
is
very
like,
sharp.
we might
edge.
as well be sitting on a bourbon barrel.
Yeah,
this thing is crazy.
You know, like a big old binder that you buy from like the office supply store. It feels like we're sitting on those. That's what I have the sensation of right now. It is not fun.
There's no padding in the chair, and I know what some of you are probably saying. I should have enough padding, but after you sit here for a few hours, it's not enough.
Start looking like SpongeBob SquarePants after a while in these chairs.
Still, it's right over Fragrant.
Fragrant Kentucky. Yep. Yeah, we got to get this notch out of here. That's not great.
And by that notch, what we mean, the greens are going toward the radar. So we're like, okay, that's toward the radar. The reds are coming around the opposite direction, away from the radar. So that's the rotation that we're seeing on the radar. Now, we are a ways away from the radar. So if this were the radar beam and you go out in distance, the further you go out, the higher the radar beam goes. So we are a little elevated here, but we'll see how that trends as we get a little closer to the radar.
More pea-size hail in Litchfield there. No surprise given their location with the storm.
That's the storm we're tracking. It's the one over Grayson County. It's past Litchfield. Heavy rain and pea-size hail still there, but the greatest potential for any type of wind and that must have been the previous.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. So we're down to, in our counties, just one severe thunderstorm warning, it looks like.
And there it is.
Yeah, 27 more minutes to go on that guy.
Oh, is that all?
I know. We're over here like looking at the clock like, wow, this is getting late, but we expected that.
Yeah, we did. We knew this was going to be a late night for us. It's just that there hasn't been a lot of reports out of this. So again, we have not a lot of information to give to you. And we could sit here and just talk circles all day. And I'm sure that's what it seems like when we're in nonstop weather coverage.
We've got Eyes on the Ground SPTV show here on YouTube says, watching the storm in Clarkson, not seeing any suspicious lowerings, just scud. If you know what scud is, you know what you're talking about. So that's good. I like to hear that.
Ham radio operators are excellent sources of information. We appreciate that. Great storm spotters, and they've been a part of the system for a long, long time. So we appreciate that. Now all digital, so we appreciate the reports.
Yeah. It's taco salad on YouTube.
Sounds delicious about right now,
right?
Doesn't it?
I'm in Clarksville, barely raining, a little thunder, not much wind. And Clarkson. Yep. I may have said something else.
we're delirious
Lord,
at time.
I don't even know what I said. Clark something.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. That's where the Honey Fest is in Clarkson. I know where you're at. Let's see. Pea-size hail in Litchfield, also from Christopher Haycraft. Thank you, Christopher.
We got a lot of folks watching from down in Grayson County. That's great.
Everybody.
I love it down there. I grew up going to the lakes, so Rough River was second home to me.
We used to have a SkyTrack camera down there at Falls.
Yeah, for a period of time, we put one right down at the state park.
Yes. That's when I was interning here. I remember that. I'm in North Litchfield, just past Holly Church, and it just finished hailing. Nothing major from Christian Knight. Thank you.
We're flattening that line back out again.
That's good
news.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
All right. For folks that may be listening in the control room, we need to go back on. Can you hear us? Sophia? Hello, hello.
Want me to run in there real quick?
Yeah. Yes.
We need to go wall to wall Okay, it's Robbie in there. Robbie, we are ready.
Hi, everybody. Kevin Harned with you. Ryan Hoke is here as well. We've been keeping an eye on the storms all morning, I guess it is. In fact, we've been here for about 2.5 hours tracking these storms on our digital stream. Now we have to break back into programming with the tornado warning. This includes parts of Grayson, Hardin, Hart, LaRue County. This is the storm we've been watching where we said we had this notch develop within that storm, and that would be one that we had to keep an eye on. It's right over the Fragrant area. It's going to move toward Millerstown. If you've been watching us, you know this is nothing new. We've been tracking this. However, However, with the velocity showing that there is not a defined couplet, but we do see that little notch where we have the potential for some rotation to show up.
Right. And the National Weather Service in Louisville said, okay, it's time for a tornado warning for this. Again, we are basically just south and east of Clarkson. This has put down some pea-sized hail in the Litchfield area. This is now moving toward Millerstown. This is now moving toward Bonneville, Upton. So this is parts of LaRue. This is parts of Hart. This is parts of Grayson County currently under this tornado warning here. And this is going to go on for just a little bit. Magnolia also under that red polygon. So if you know folks in that area, give them a call, wake them up, say, hey, it's time to watch the coverage on Wave.
There are only 2 warnings that we have in the whole viewing area, and they are in the same place. One with a severe thunderstorm warning. You see that sort of flashing around that red polygon, which is the tornado warning. And that warning will go until 1:45 Central Time, so 2:45 Eastern Time. And again, the greatest threat would be wind with this system as it pushes through. The tornado warning obviously showing some signs of rotation, and for that reason we get the tornado warning as opposed to just straight line winds or the severe thunderstorm warning. It is this notch that we have right there that would be the concern, and that's where we have the greatest potential for that rotation showing up approaching the Millerstown area as we speak. It's important to point out also that we've had no confirmed reports. This is radar indicated at this point. And when we look at the radar view, all across the viewing area today, we've had heavy rain, lots of tremendous lightning with this line of storms passing through. But there have been little in the way of wind reports over the last, I'd say, hour or so in this area. There have been some places where we have had strong winds, and that has certainly caused some power outages across parts of Indiana and Kentucky.
Yeah, and power outages were tremendous a little earlier along US 50 in southern Indiana. That's Lawrence, Jackson, and Jennings counties. That has improved somewhat, which is good news. What we are continuing to monitor for, though, are additional power outages that may be happening in Kentucky thanks to this line of storms now moving through. You see, of course, there is no tornado watch attached to this actual tornado warning at this time, but there you go with the power outages. Some of the worst ones by percentage, Trimble and Carroll counties in Kentucky here. And you'll note, of course, that we do have flood alerts that are ongoing because of all the heavy rain that has happened to our north. This is the current radar view, and this is what we're most concerned with, of course, which is the tornado warning, eastern Grayson County.
And that's the tornado warning in our viewing area. We also have another tornado warning right along the Kentucky-Ohio border. That's well away from us. Our focus goes to the south. Again, the 2 warnings that we have, one severe thunderstorm warning, one tornado warning right in the same location. I'm just going to move the radar briefly. Let me pause it so we can see the storm as it moves toward Millerstown. That's where we have sort of that bend in the general line. And that is where we would have the greatest potential for some of that rotation. Strong winds, certainly the potential for that to rotate is there. And with that, the tornado warning stays in place.
Sirens going off in Radcliffe right now, but just understand that Radcliffe is not under a tornado warning. So if you do hear a tornado siren, turn on the TV or look at the Wave weather app or our live stream here, figure out what's going on. Doesn't necessarily mean your exact location may be under a tornado warning. Some of these siren systems go off for a whole county, even though maybe a little bit of it is in it.
And that's the tough part because Elizabethtown's not in this either. This is well to the south. This is southern parts of Hardin County. This includes extreme northern Hart County, which include the Bonneville area, Upton, Magnolia, Millerstown. It's just about in the next couple of minutes out of Grayson County. And as far as LaRue County is concerned, it's more there than probably in Hardin County and the extreme northern part of Hart County, as we pointed out. That warning is in place until 1:45 Central Time as this storm tracks off to the south and southeast. Let me get a speed on this for you. And as we look at that speed, it's moving at 55 miles per hour off to the east.
The Grayson County Emergency Management Office has a camera on top of it that's focused on this storm. They have not seen any lowering from the clouds. That's a good sign. That means nothing's nefarious is going on underneath of this storm here. That would suggest like that a tornado is actually occurring. However, there is enough rotation and that notch in the storm here to give us that tornado warning designation from the National Weather Service in Louisville. This is a proactive thing. We've been watching this here for quite some time since it was well in western Kentucky, and now here it is over the Millerstown area. Again, Millerstown, take cover. Lowest level of your home away from doors and windows here. Kevin has put on some of the times that you can see here. In fact, we'll take those full for just a minute so you can read those a little easier. And you'll see there that includes Upton at 2:37 a.m. That's Eastern time. Hammondville 1:43 Central. Magnolia, that's 2:46 Eastern time. And then Powder Mill, that's 1:49 Central time. We're right on the dividing line between Central and Eastern time, which makes it a little bit of a challenge sometimes. But thankfully, the computers can figure that out for us.
Moving at 55 miles an hour, this is passing by fast. For folks that this may have awakened simply because we have alerts with those alarms going off or sirens going off, you can see much of the area is in the clear. It's areas along and south of the parkways that still have that chance for strong to severe storms. If you're not in that area, you're in the clear. And with that, we're tracking the tornado warning across. It's just about move into western Hardin County, but it's still right over Millerstown. That's the area where we have the greatest potential. That would be moving into southern Hardin. And boy, it's barely going to clip Hardin before it moves into LaRue and northern parts of Hart County.
So that's northern Hart County, Bonneville, that's in the crosshairs of this at this time here, getting ready to cross I-65. The area of concern of rotation will probably hit just north of Bonneville. So this is going to be almost square between Upton and Bonneville, I-65. This will move straight across. And that's where we'll start to see, the risk of rotation start to increase there. I'm going to draw up there's a traffic camera. I'll do this on the other weather computer while you keep talking, Kevin.
Right. Sure.
And we'll be able to get a live view of I-65 down there. I think we've got one pretty close to Bonneville.
This is where we would see the rotation showing up on radar. Now, at this point, nothing's confirmed. This is all radar indicated. The tornado warning is in place because of what we've been watching for the last probably, I'd say at least half hour. And if you've been on the stream with us, you know that we were tracking this through that entire time. We've been on our digital assets for about more than 2.5 hours. And with that, we have been keeping a very close eye on this little notch because this storm had previously been tornado warned across parts of Ohio County. It came into Grayson County. It had sort of flattened out a bit. And then within the last half hour or so, we kept seeing this notch trying to redevelop. And that's where we have the inflow into the storm, where we still see the potential for some rotation. It is not, again, a super tight couplet on this storm. So it's tough to even pick out at this point, but it would be past the Millerstown area. It's going to go right in between Upton and Bonneville. So as this storm makes its way off to the east, 55 miles an hour, should we see any issue, it would be between Upton and Bonneville at this point. And Ryan's punching up the traffic camera so we can see it. This is going to be down into northern parts of Hart County, very close to the Bonneville area. Lots of lightning showing up with that.
Yeah, no surprise. This lightning here, given the storms moving in, literally making night and today for a few seconds here and there. You can see the cars traveling on I-65. This is near the LaRue County line, so this is going to be real close. Basically right between Upton and Bonneville where this camera is. So we'll be able to see in real time what's going on, at least from a looking down perspective of what may be going on.
They're not even seeing the heavy rain there yet.
No, it's dry as a bone, which is not surprising given the radar presentation.
So again, we track this tornado warned storm. This is coming across parts of Grayson County. It's moving out of that county. So we'll be able to let that go and then keep southern Hardin, southern parts of LaRue and northern Hart County all in that warning until 1:45 Central time. that storm, again, still showing a little bit of a wiggle in it, or a little bit of an inflow, if you will. But when we look at the velocity, there is no tight gate-to-gate or rotation that we would normally see for a very strong couplet or tight rotation,
Yeah,
which is good news.
and there's the traffic camera again. This is northern Hart County here. Some of that lightning has been exceptionally bright. There you see Grayson County, 1.2% of Grayson County without power. That's 225 customers. That's just new to in here from our Wavy alert bot.
I'll put on the lightning, a tremendous amount of lightning with this storm. Obviously, you can see that through the traffic camera. We can also see it on the radar view. And with that, we have noted in and on parts of the viewing area to our south, massive amounts of lightning, though on the decrease over the course of the last few hours.
Yeah, and that's an overall decrease in storm intensity we're seeing as well. They've now updated this tornado warning here. They've gotten rid of Grayson County out of it, so that's good. Grayson County, you are now in the clear from this tornado warning. This is exclusively for the extreme southern part of Hardin and then parts of Hart and LaRue County, right at the LaRue and Hart County line here.
Well, this will be interesting to watch because we can see it on the radar, but we also have the camera up from the Trimark and the Department of Transportation where heavy rain should be moving in. That'll obscure our view, but at this point we can see the lightning, and if there were to be anything, we would certainly be able to hopefully hear. There seems to be a number of people traveling up and down I-65, so the pretty decent storm coming their way within the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, of course, we are live streaming on Wave Weather now. It's our 24/7 weather live stream here as we take the northern Hart County I-65 camera from KYTC full there. And you'll see, of course, all the folks traveling and maybe a little bit of rain on the lens. Hard to tell there, maybe just a lens flare. But it's a busy stretch of road at 2:32 Eastern, 1:32 Central at night here. So many folks are trying to get out and about from Louisville to Nashville.
Well, the stream has been a popular place this evening, and now we're broadcasting on Wave because of the tornado warning. We've had tens of thousands of people watching us through our apps, both the news and weather app. And then, of course, we're on all of our social platforms as well. Whether you're watching on X or Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, we've got a lot of places where you can view us. We always say the best place happens to be the Wave Weather app. That is where we have and host our 24/7 weather channel. It's called Wave Weather Now. It's Louisville's only 24/7 weather channel that has live interruptions of severe weather information throughout the day, every day. And tonight we happen to be interrupting that with the tornado warning that is moving across southern parts of LaRue County, southern parts of Hardin County, and northern parts of
People are
Hart
putting
County.
their flashers on. I've noticed there on the top right-hand side of the camera, multiple vehicles on I-65 north in Hart County. Not quite sure why, but it may be because the rain is moving in, something foreboding perhaps. But yeah, a lot of folks with their flashers on now.
And you can see they would be moving across, if we were looking at the traffic going northbound, which we were, the tail lights to us would be the cars traveling north. They would be moving right into that storm. So they probably see it ahead of them.
They can see more than we can. And I'm sure it's definitely something that they don't want to drive into very quickly. Hence the flashers.
The tornado warning includes the Buffalo area. That's also going to include Upton, Vento, Bonneville. Those are areas, again, the last scan, repronouncing, if you will, that notch into the storm. Let's look at the velocity. And with that, we can see that the push of wind as well. At this point, the strongest wind would be going toward Vento and Bonneville. This would be where we would see that push of wind coming through. And that has the ability to produce even straight line winds that could cause some damage, upwards of 70 miles per hour in places, even without the full rotation needed to see an actual tornado touchdown.
Yeah, so if you're in Bonneville, it's your time to take cover. This storm is pretty much on you. This is crossing I-65 as we speak. Very big lightning producer, probably has some gusty winds. Definitely a pea-size hail situation with this as well. We've seen a lot of reports of pea-size hail with this earlier when it was in Litchfield and a little closer to Clarkson and Fragrant, Kentucky. But now it is moving into the very north central part of Hart County there between Upton and Bonneville is our biggest area of concern, both Upton and Bonneville underneath the tornado warning here until 45 after.
We've been tracking storms since this afternoon around this time, so we're 12 hours into where we had our first strong to severe storms appear, and now we continue to track them throughout the overnight hours. If you are along and south of the parkways, you still have the threat of severe weather. If you're north of the Western Kentucky or Bluegrass Parkway, you are in good shape, and you may still be hearing the thunder, seeing the lightning, you have some rain, but at this point, the threat of severe weather over is ended north of the parkways. Let's jump back into the tornado warned storm to the south. I'm going to point out that we have heavy rain falling from Bardstown, stretching across parts of Washington County, including Willisburg and Springfield. That arcs into northern parts of LaRue County, central Hardin County. That includes Hodgenville and Elizabethtown. But the tornado warning that we are focused on, zoom in even more, happens to be moving across northern Hart County and southern LaRue County at this point. Right along 65, close to Bonneville and Upton. Ryan pointed that out. It was between the two. And that's where we were talking about this notch that comes in, a little inflow into that storm. With that, the velocity shows that as well. That is the push of wind that is now passing past Bonneville and will make its way farther to the east. This storm is moving east at 55 miles an hour, and that will continue to be a problem across southern LaRue County and northern Hart County.
It's probably a good time to just reinforce that Louisville is fine. Southern Indiana is fine. We are in the clear. This is northern Hart County, southern LaRue County. That's where this traffic camera is right here, with some of the most frequent lightning I have seen in a very long time in this area here. You can see a near constant illumination of I-65 North. And notice there's very few cars, but when they do come by here, sometimes they have their flashers on, like this vehicle here on the right side of your screen. There's some rain on the lens. It is finally raining there now, it looks like. So this storm is in full effect there in northern Hart County.
What would normally be a completely dark picture is being illuminated by some headlights, but more importantly and more frequently, certainly, by the lightning that's overhead. And you can see that constant flicker of lightning that continues. The tornado warning will continue for about another
We may have just lost
8
the
minutes. And it looks like that camera may have gone down.
Yeah, okay.
We'll come back to that. The wind is picking up. We can see the storm approaching I-65, and you'll notice that from our radar view here. We don't have real-time wind reports coming out of there, though the Kentucky Mesonet likely has one down near the Bonneville area as you work toward Munfordville. So it would be close, but probably not in it. There may be one in the Upton area. I'm not sure where that one for LaRue County is. We'll check on that to see if we have an actual wind speed. Nonetheless, the notch still shows up on the reflectivity. On the velocity, we still see it as well. So that is a pretty decent punch of wind that is moving through Hart County in particular. That's going to be moving near High Hickory, the northern end of that, and over toward Jonesville. Jonesville. And as that storm moves toward Jonesville, you can expect your winds to increase as well. That's the area we're watching. That is the area that we have been watching for more than an hour now. And that's because we were pointing out that the signs of rotation kept sort of ebbing and flowing. And we've said all along with this line of storms that the general threat would gradually decrease, but it wasn't a switch that you could say, okay, we're turning off severe weather, there will be no more. It's sort of like powering down an engine. It takes a little bit of time to completely get it all faded away. And we're in sort of our last gasp of it. When we look at the watches and warnings we have, severe thunderstorm watch, southern parts of the viewing area, generally along and south of the parkways. Clusters of thunderstorms, sure, we have those. The greatest going on across the Kentucky-Ohio border, farther to the north. And then farther to the south, we sort of have just this one strong storm. That's the tornado warned storm. While Nashville is under severe thunderstorm warnings, and there are several other severe thunderstorm warnings across parts of Tennessee. For us in our viewing area, outside of a few flood warnings, and those are flash flood warnings, we only have the severe thunderstorm and tornado warning across parts of central Kentucky. And that shows that rotation, southern parts of LaRue, northern parts of Hart.
Yeah, 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts from the Kentucky Mesonet in LaRue County, 27 miles per hour there in Hart County. This is the LaRue County I-65 traffic camera. We lost the connection to the Hart County one. That may be a power outage issue, by the way, because it seemed like it kind of reached a tipping point there with that. But thankfully, LaRue County's camera is still online. You can see the water running down the lens, and it's certainly got quite an active view there as those folks are driving through some pretty heavy rain at this point.
Oh, we have crashes going on here in the metro, likely outside of the weather that's actually happening because our weather is eased here. There is a crash at Grade Lane here in Louisville on 65. The tornado warning goes for just a few more minutes. We've got 4 more minutes on this warning. Radar indicated, but we certainly have had some strong winds with this, losing power to the camera that was located not far from the Bonneville area as you work your way into southern parts of LaRue County. For folks that may be watching on Wave, we're breaking into your overnight coverage because of the tornado warning that's ongoing to the south. This is for southern parts of LaRue County, northern parts of Hart County. At this point, Hardin County is out of it, and it's pretty much confined to southern LaRue and northern Hart. So the radar polygon will be updating again here in just a second. With that said, we have had reports throughout the day today that some of these stronger storms have produced wind damage, and that included even folks here in Jefferson County, northeast Jefferson County, Oldham County, over into parts of Henry County. Saw earlier some very strong winds that knocked out thousands of customers without power.
Yeah, we've got a new severe thunderstorm warning that's tornado possible. Radar indicated for Green, Hart, and LaRue, including Marion and parts of Nelson and Taylor. And this goes until 3:30 Eastern time. So now we're butting up against the 3:30 time frame here Eastern time with that new warning that is coming out here. That should be out pretty shortly.
Yeah, and you can see it lit up on the map. This is the warning. I'll click on it so you get the details. Again, Ryan pointed out the tornado possible tag, and that's just an indicator that this is going to replace the tornado warning. Though if they need to draw that polygon in there, they can still upgrade a small part of that severe thunderstorm warning to a tornado warning. And that will go until 3:30 Eastern time, mainly for wind. And that wind gust would be upwards of 70 to 80 miles an hour, it looks like, or 60 miles an hour.
Yes,
sorry.
60 miles per hour on that wind there. We are tracking some very strong winds as well outside of that warning, just near Loretto at this time. Those probably aren't making it to the ground, but there's a lot of wind energy associated with the atmosphere today. So these storms are able to channel that and take it down to ground level pretty quickly here. And that's why we're concerned about not only, the small tornado threat this evening, but the damaging straight line wind potential that we have seen come to fruition in parts of Kentucky and especially southern Indiana earlier today with the wind damage they've had.
The tornado warning continues for 2 more minutes at this point, and then the severe thunderstorm warning will continue past that until 3:30. Looking back at what we were watching as this approaches Jonesville, this would be that minor notch that you see. And again, it gets a little squiggly along that line, and that's where we would have some of the greater wind pushes or gust of wind. And at this point, the velocity has flattened out somewhat. And that's an indicator that we're losing some of that wind and the rotation potential that the radar originally saw. That's good news. That's a weakening trend on this. It doesn't mean that it can't tighten back up, but the whole trend in general will be to weaken and gradually ease out of severe weather as the morning hours wear on.
Yeah, so we are in the last stages of this, the last gasp of these storms continuing to be severe in our southern Kentucky communities now. Again, Louisville, southern Indiana, we are done. We are all clear. This is
and
not
that warning has expired.
Yep, there we go. 45 after on the nose. So we are now tornado warning free.
So for folks that want to carry on with our live coverage, we'll keep this going for just a bit longer on the live stream. If you're watching on Wave, we're going to get you back to whatever is on overnight tonight. Maybe even a rerun of the news that we had earlier that was streaming. I'm not sure what is on at this point, but we'll bail back out. if you're interested in nonstop weather coverage, we're streaming. Make sure you have the Wave Weather app and you can watch the Wave Weather live stream. We're on there all the time when there's active weather, or you can always watch Wave Weather Now. It's Louisville's only 24/7 weather channel with frequent live updates.
Yes, and of course it features Wavy, the weather bot that you see here at the bottom of the screen with a crash on the Watterson, or 65 North, I should say, approaching the Watterson here in Louisville. So we'll continue on that live stream and we'll see you there.
Try to get some sleep, and if you want to continue with weather coverage, we'll be on the live stream.
Okay, we're back on just the live stream now.
All right, appreciate that, Robbie. Thank you and Jeremiah for getting us on. I'll swap my IFB back out. It's like a juggling match.
It truly is. And it worked out that we were able to, broadcast from this studio here, which is really nice during an overnight period. So we're not running around. Makes it a lot easier for us to get things done. That's for certain. We're still tracking, of course, the I-65 camera in LaRue County as well. It has calmed down a little bit. Doesn't look like it did before, but certainly still some lightning in there.
Did the Hart County one ever come back?
It did not.
Yeah, so
I checked it about 3 minutes ago, and I think it's out. So I'll be curious to see what happened there. Probably just a power outage. Probably not much more than that, but interesting nonetheless.
So the warnings that we have, the only warning, severe warning, is the severe thunderstorm warning for those southern counties. It clips the southern part of Nelson, much of LaRue, southern half of Marion, almost all of Hart, Greene, and Taylor counties. Adair not in it yet. That could get extended if these hold together. So,
and that goes all the way till 3:30 in the morning Eastern time. So.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, we've got, we're going to swap out. Tawana's here. Carson is on his way in because they're working the morning shift this week for Sunrise at the Downs. Ryan and I were here yesterday. We're here today for much of the day. So we're going to keep an eye on this. If we need to jump back on the stream, we will. But at this point, I think that it is somewhat safe. And let me just take one more look at this velocity before we let you go. And interesting, you mentioned Marion County. That is the heaviest pocket of wind. That doesn't necessarily mean it's making it to the ground, but it is certainly there aloft. And we're looking better and better along this line as this moves through where we had that rotation. So passing by Bonneville, Munfordville, Jonesville, we still have a little bit of a notch, but the greatest part of that wind moving toward Hudgens, and that's going to move into northern parts of Greene County, but it has weakened somewhat. So we still have some strong wind. Outside of that, I'm just going to pop the rain on real quick just so I can see this in a loop. Let me take that warning off. This is over the last 3 hours in particular. So just looking at the sort of general trend of this would be to broaden this out, turn into a heavy rainmaker, lose the wind potential with this. So it's moving, which is good. That means flooding will become less of an issue. You need the rain, so that's a good thing. So you're getting some of that. Let's hope it has at least some time to soak in before it runs off.
Yeah.
But at least they're getting some rain where they need it.
Yeah, and this is the worst part of the drought for our area is this bottom section of counties right here. So soak it in while you can down there, guys. We just don't want flash flooding. Tornado warning continues just off to the east of Lexington. So that is the only tornado warning that we have in our viewing area. There's another, or in our state, I guess, because it's not in our viewing area. There is another one south of Nashville. Outside of that, those are the only two tornado warnings on the map tonight. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue for us just south of the parkways. And that is where we have sort of pegged the area of most concern to say, if you're south of the parkways, south of E-Town, if you're in E-Town, you're good to go. If you're in Hodgenville, you're good to go. If you are in Marion, Greene, Taylor, Adair, you still have a little bit of time before you will be able to rest because we still have these storms moving through. Could still pack a punch with some wind. Yeah, and again, this is going to take until probably 4 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Central to get this all the way through Adair County, which is in about an hour's time. By then, we'll be totally in the clear. Again, Louisville, southern Indiana, areas along the north of the parkways, we're done.
All right, I think we're going to wrap it up here. If we need to jump back on the stream, we will. We're coming up on 3 a.m. This warning will go until 3:30. We'll be back if we need to be. Otherwise, just know that that is the area under the severe thunderstorm warning. Oftentimes, you'll find us on the stream. We'll certainly be back here tomorrow. We've got another alert day in place for Tuesday evening, and that's because across parts of southern Kentucky, this very area we're looking at tonight could be faced again with another round of storms tomorrow night, probably after 6, 7, 8 o'clock.
It won't be as late, thankfully. We'll be done by midnight tomorrow night. That's an improvement.
That would be nice. We'll be here as long as we need to be tonight. So appreciate you hanging with us here on the stream. Thanks to those who were watching on Wave as well. And we'll be back with you as needed. In the meantime, try to get some sleep. If you're in those counties we mentioned, Marion, Greene, Taylor, Adair, again, these storms moving through, they are warned for severe weather. But at this point, by all accounts that we're seeing, there have been no damage reports coming in of any recent time. So we're going to let you go, and we'll be back on if we need to jump back on.
See you guys.
Good night.